Got to begin somewhere. All right, welcome everybody to the Talking Box Show. Here we go. We're gonna finish this week's portion reading titled Mishpatim. Mishpatim means divine injunctions. That's probably the best way to understand the word Mishpatim in biblical Hebrew. Divine injunctions. Beginning with Exodus chapter 22, and we're going to end on chapter 24, verse 18. Tonight at sunset, at the conclusion of the Shabbat service, we'll begin the next week's parasha. So I'm going to read from the biblical Hebrew and read the English translation from the Sefaria app. If you have an Android phone, this is a free app to begin reading the Bible and learning to read it in biblical Hebrew. This app has so many different functions, different dictionaries. There's so much access to free education. So if you have an Android phone, and you can look on um, Apple phone and see if it's in the Apple store. I have an Android phone, but for sure the Android phone it's for free, and it's spelled Sefaria Sefaria app. So let's get right into the reading. Im Bachateret Yamet Yamatse Haganav Ve Hucha Velme Ein Lo Damim. If the thief is seized while tunneling and beaten to death, there is no blood guilt in that case. Im Zarka Hashamesh Elav Damim Lo Shalem Yesh Shalem Im Ein Lo Venimkar. If the sun had already risen, there is blood guilt in that case. The thief must make restitution, and if lacking the means, shall be sold for the theft. Im himatze timatze veyado hagneva mishor ar kamor ar se chaim shenaim. But if what was stolen, whether ox or ass or sheep, is found alive and in hand, that person shall pay double. Ki yaver Ki yaver ish sadeh ov kerem ve'shalach et ba'iro uver bisde acher meitav sadechu umeitav karmo yeshalem. When any party who owns livestock lets it loose to graze in another's land, and so allows a field or a vineyard to be grazed bare, restitution must be made for the impairment of that field or vineyard. Ki teze ace umatza kozim venecha gadiosh o hakama o hasade shalem yeshalem hamavir et ha be'era. When a fire is started and spreads to thorns, so that stacked, standing, or growing, grain is consumed, the one who started the fire must make restitution. Ki yetain ish al re hu kasef of kelim lishmor vegu nav mibe haish im yamatze haganav yeshalem she naim. When any party gives money or goods to another for safekeeping, and they are stolen from that other party's house, if caught, the thief shall pay double. Im lo yamatze haganav venikra ba'a habai el ha'elechim im lo shalak yado bim lechet re rehu. If the thief is not caught, the owner of the house shall depose before God and deny laying hands on the other's property. El Devar Pasha, Al Shor Hachamor, Al Se el shama elcha aved- aveda asher yomar. Ki chuze ar ha'elihim yavo devar shenechem asher y- yashiyun Yarshiyun Elohim Yeshalem Shanaim Lere'echu, and all charges of misappropriation pertain to an ox, an ass, a sheep, a garment, or any other loss, whereof one party alleges. This is it. The case of both parties shall come before God. The one whom God declares guilty shall pay double to the other. Ki yitain ish al rehu chamor, ovshor ovse, vecha behemal, lishmor umet, ov nishba, ein roe. When a party gives to another an ass, an ox, a sheep, or any other animal to guard, and it dies, or is injured, or is carried off, with no witness about, שבועה אדוני תהיה בין שניהם אם לא שלח ידו במלאכת רעהו ולקח בעליו לא ישלם. An oath before Adonai shall decide between the two of them, that the one has not laid hands on the property of the other. The owner must acquiesce, and no restitution shall be made. Ve'im gano yiganev, me'imo yeshalem live alav. But if the animal was stolen from the guardian, restitution shall be made to its owner. Im tarof yitaref, yaviechu eid harefa lo yeshalem. If it was torn by beast, the guardian shall bring it as evidence, not needing to replace what has been torn by beast. Vechi yeshal Ishme'in Re'ehu v'nishbar ovme be'alav einemo shalem ye shalem. When any party borrows an animal from another and it dies or is injured, its owner not being with it, restitution must be made. Im be'alav emolot ye shalem im shakir or im sachir hu ba bis karo. If its owner was with it, no restitution need be made, but if it was hired, that payment is due. Vechi yepa- vechi yefate ish betula asher lo orasa veshachav ima mahor yim harena le isha. If a man seduces a virgin for whom the bride price has not been paid, and lies with her, he must make her his wife by payment of a bride price. Ye ma'ain, avia leticha lo kesef, yishko ke mohar, habtulot. If her father refuses to give her to him, he must still weigh out silver in accordance with the bride price for virgins. Me chashefa lo tichaye. You shall not tolerate a sorceress. Ha-shachev im behema mo yumat. Whoever lies with the beast shall be put to death. Zoveach la elchim yacharam bilti la Adonai levodo. Whoever sacrifices to a god other than Adonai alone shall be proscribed. Vegerlo tone velo tichatzenu ki yerim. Heyitem beretz Mitzrayim. You shall not wrong or oppress a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Cha elmanah vayatom lo te anun. You, communal leaders, shall not ill-treat any widow or orphan. Let me read that again. Cha elmanah vayatom lo te anun. So it also could be understood as You spiritual leaders shall not ill treat any widow or orphan. Imane te ane oto chiim zaok yitzak elashamoa eshma zakato. If you do mistreat them, I will heed their outcry as soon as they cry out to me. Vechara api, vecharati echem, becharev vechayu, neshechem almanot uvnechem yetomim. And my anger shall blaze forth, and I will put you to the sword. And your own wives shall become widows, and your children orphans. Im kesef talve ami ha or he ani imachlo tielo kanoshe lo tesimun elav neshek. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, do not act toward them as a creditor. Exact no interest from them. Im chavo tachbo shama re'echa aru hashemesh teshivenulo. If you take your neighbor's garment in pledge, you must return it before the sun sets. Ki hirchesuto levada hi shemlato le le oro bame yishkav vechayaki gitzak ala shamati ki chanunani. Go back and read this. Ki yitzak. Okay, it is the only available clothing. It is what covers the skin. And what else shall your neighbor sleep? Therefore, for this reason, if that person cries out to me, I will pay heed, for I am compassionate. Elohim lo techaleo, venasi ve'amcha lo ta'or. You shall not revile God, nor put a curse upon a chieftain among your people. Meletecha ve'demacha lo te'acher bechor banecha tetenli. You shall not put off the skimming of the first yield of your vats. You shall give me the first male born among your children. Cain tase leshocha lezonecha shiva yami yeye imo bayom hashmini titnoli. You shall do the same with your cattle and your flocks. 7 days the male firstborn shall remain with its mother. On the eighth day you shall give it to me. Ve anshe kodesh tiyunli uvasar basade terefalo tochelu la chelev tashlichun oto. You shall be holy people to me. You must not eat flesh torn by beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. Lo tisashema shaval tashe yadecha im rasha leyo el hamas. You must not carry false rumors. So now I'm on chapter 23, verse 1. Lo tisashema shavel teshe yadecha im rasha liyot a hamas. You must not carry false rumors. You shall not join hands with the guilty to act as a malicious witness. Lo tiye acharei rabim lero velo ta'anei al riv lento acharei rabim lechatot. You shall neither side with the mighty to do wrong. You shall not give perverse testimony in a dispute so as to pervert it in favor of the mighty. Vedalo tedar berivo. You shall nor shall you show deference to a person. Okay, hold on. I can't read English all of a sudden. Nor let me reread this verse. Exodus chapter 23, verse 3. Vedalo tedar berivo. Nor shall you show deference to a poor person in a dispute. Ki tif ki tifka shor oyivcha o chamoro toe hashev teshivenu. When you encounter your enemy's ox or as wandering, you must take it back. Ki tere chamor shona shanacha rovet tacha masao vechadat vechadalat me azov lo azov ta azov imo. That was redundant in Hebrew words. Me azov lo azov ta azov. When you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden and would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless help raise it. In other words, give a brother a hand. That's what that whole verse means. So, lo tate mishpat evyonecha berivo. You shall not subvert the rights of your needy in their disputes. Mida sheker techach venaki vezadig el taharog ki lo Atzdik Rasha. Keep far from a false charge. Do not bring death on those who are innocent, and in this right, for I will not acquit the wrongdoer. Ve shocha lo tekach ki hashakar ye aver pechim visa left divrei zadikim. Do not take bribes, for bribes blind the ear-sighted and upset the pleas of. Okay, hold on. I said ear-sighted. Do not take bribes, for bribes blind the clear-sighted and upset the pleas of those who are in the right. Vegelo tichat ve'atem yedatem et nefesh hager ki gerim heyitem be'eret mitzrayim. You shall not oppress a stranger. Wow, that's like the second time we've been warned about not oppressing a stranger, right? So basically, Garrett can also be translated and understood as an immigrant. You shall not oppress an immigrant, for you know the feelings of the strength of the immigrant, having yourselves been immigrants in the land of Egypt. And it Vesheshanim Tizra et Arzecha Ve'asafta et Tevuata. 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield. Vehashvi'i tishmetena untashta ve'achlu. Evione amecha ve'yiram tocha chayat hasadei kain ta'aseh lecharmecha lezedeka. But in the seventh you shall let it rest and lie fallow. Let the needy among your people eat of it, and what they leave, let the wild beasts eat. You shall do the same with your vineyards and your olive groves. Sheshe yamin ta'aseh ma'asecha uvayom chashvi'i tishpo lema yanuach shorcha vechamorecha veyinafesh bein amatecha vechager. 6 days shall 6 days you shall do your work. But on the seventh day you shall cease from labor, in order that your ox and your ass may rest, and that your home-born slave and the stranger may be refreshed. Uvcho asher amarti elechem tishameru veshem elohim acharim lo tazkiru lo yishama al picha. Be on guard concerning all that I have told you. Make no mention of the names of other gods. They shall not be heard on your lips. Shalosh Realim Tachog Li Bashana. 3 times a year you shall hold a festival for me. Echag Hamatzot Tishmor Shiva Yamim Tocha Matzot Ha'asher Zivitika lemoed. Chodesh ha'aviv kivo. Yatzat Yatzat mimatrim Mimitraim velo yeru fanai rekam. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, eating unleavened bread for 7 days, as I have commanded you, at the set time in the month of Abib. For in it you went from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. Vechar hachazir bichurei ma'ashteka asher tidra basade vechar asif be'e Hashanah be'yaspecha e ma'asecha min sadeh, and the feast of the harvest, of the firstfruits of your work, of what you sow in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in the results of your work from the field. Shalosh pa'amim bashana yereya cha zekurcha al panei ha'adon Adonai. So I said it twice. Ha'adon Yud He Vav He. 3 times a year shall your males, 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before the sovereign. Yud He Vav He Adonai. Lo tizbach el chametz dam zechi velo Yalin, Chele Chagia Boker. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened, and the fat of my festal offering shall not be left lying until morning. Reshi Bechore Armata, wait, Arma, Armatecha Tavibe Adena Lecheka Lo Tavasher Gadi Bechalev Emo. The choice first fruits of your soil you shall bring to the house of your God Adonai. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Hine Anochi Sholeach Mal- Malach Lafanecha Lish Marcha Badarek Vela Chaviacha El Hamakom Asher Hakenoti. I am sending a messenger before you to guard you on the way, and to bring you to the place that I have made ready. Hishamer Mipanav Ushma Bekolo Altamer Bo Kilo Yisa Lefish Achem Ki Shemi Bekirbo. Pay heed to him and obey him. Do not defy him, for he will not pardon your offenses, since my name is in him. Ki im shamoa tishma bekolo ve'asita cho asher adaber ve'ayavti et ovecha ve'zarti et zorecha. But if you obey him and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies, for a foe to your foes. Ki yelech malaki lefanecha ve'heviacha el ha-emori ve'ha-chiti ve'ha-rizi ve'ha-kenani ha-chivi ve'ha-yevusi ve'hi-chativ ve'hi-chativ. When my messenger goes before you and brings you to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, right? The Perizzites, no, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I annihilate them. Lo tish tachave lelochem, velo ta'avdem, velo ta'aseh, kema sechem ki hares teharsem, veshaber teshaber, me zevotehem. Matse votehem. You shall not bow down to their gods and worship or follow their practices, but shall tear them down and smash the pillars to bits. Va avatem Adonai Elohechem uvarake lachmecha ve'emekech ve'e memecha ve'chasir ve'chasiroti machala mecherbecha. You shall serve your God Adonai, who will bless your bread and your water, and I will remove sickness from your midst. Lo teye mashachela ve'achara be'arzecha e mispar yamecha amale. No woman in your land shall miscarry or be barren. I will let you enjoy the full count of your days. E emati ashalach lafanecha vechamoti echacha amasher tavo bahem ve natati echa ovenecha elecha aref. I will send forth my terror before you, and I will throw into panic all the people among whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn tail before you. Ve shalakti e hazira lafenecha vegarsha e hakivi e e Hakanani ve'e hachiti milfanecha. I will send a plague ahead of you, and it shall drive out before you the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites. Lo agar shenu mipanecha beshana echa pentiye ha'ere shamama ve rabba alecha chayo hasadeh. I will not drive them out before you in a single year, lest the land become desolate and the wild beasts multiply to your hurts. Meya, meya, agar shenu, mipanecha asher, asher, tifre venachalat et haaretz. I will drive them out before you, little by little, until ye have increased and possessed the land. Veishati et gevucha miyom suf veyariam pelishtim umid um umim okay umim midaber. I can't say this word for some reason. I can't read it. Umid midbar ar hanahar ki etain beyadechem et yoshve haaretz vegarashtamo. Mepanecha. I will set your borders from the sea of reeds to the sea of Philistia, and from the wilderness to the Euphrates, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hands, and you will drive them out before you. Lo tikro lachem velo hehem berit. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods. Lo yeshvu berazecha pain yacha tichu otecha liki ta'avo e Elohehem ki Adonai. Oh, hold on. Ki yirye lecha lemochesh. They shall not remain in your land, lest they cause you to sin against me, for you will serve their gods, and it will prove a snare to you. Exodus chapter 24, verse 1. Ve'ya Moshe amar le'ai Adonai ata ve'acharon nadav va'avihu ve'shivim mitziknei Yisrael ve'hish tachavitem me rakok. Then God said to Moses, come up to Adonai with Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel, and bow low from afar. Venigash Moshe levado el Adonai vehem lo yagashu ha'am velo ya'alu emo. Moses alone shall come near Adonai, but the others shall not come near, nor shall the people come up with him. Vayavo Moshe vaysaper la'am echa divrei Adonai ve'echa hamishpatim vayam chacha'amcho echad vayomru ha hadivrayim asher diber Adonai na'aseh Moses went and repeated to the people all the commands of Adonai and all the rules, and all the people answered with one voice, saying, all the things that Adonai has commanded we will do. ויקצור משה אחד דברי אדוני וישכם בבוקר ובין מזבח ההר ושתים עשרה מצבה לשנים עשר שבטי Israel. Moses then wrote down all the commands of Adonai. Early in the morning, he set up an altar at the foot of the mountain with 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. וישלח את נערי בני ישראל, ויעלו עולות, ויזבחו זבחים שלמים לאדוני parim. He designated some assistants among the Israelites, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed bulls as offerings of well-being to Adonai. ויקח משה חצי חדם וישם בעגנות, וחצי חדם זרק el hamizbeach. Moses took one part of the blood and put it in basins, and the other part of the blood he dashed against the altar. Vayikach sefer chabri vayikra באזני העם ויאמרו כה אשר דיבר אדוני נעשה ונשמע. Then he took the record of the covenant and read it along to the people, and they said, all that Adonai has spoken we will faithfully do. וייחר משה את הדם ויזרוק אל העם ויאמר הנה דם הברי אשר כרת אדוני עמכם על כל הדברים האלה. Moses took the blood and dashed it on the people and said, this is the blood of the covenant that Adonai now makes with you concerning all these commands. והיה משה ואהרון נדב Va'avihu Veshivim Mitzikne Yisrael. Then Moses and Israel, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel ascended. Vayiru e Elohe Yisrael Vetacha Raglav Ke Maaseh Livna Ha-Sapir, Uk Esem, Hashamayim Latohar, and they saw the God of Israel, under whose feet was the likeness of a pavement of sapphire, like the very sky for purity. Ve'al etzile b'nei Yisrael lo shalach yado, vayechezu et ha'elechim vayochelu vayishtu. Yet God did not raise a hand against the leaders of the Israelites. They beheld God and they ate and drank. Vayomer Adonai Moshe Ale Alai Hahara Veyesham Ve'etna Lecha Et Luchot Ha'aven Ve'chatorah V'hamitzvah Asher Katavti Lechoretem. Adonai said to Moshe, come up to me on the mountain and wait there, and I will give you the stone tablets with the teachings and commandments which I have inscribed to instruct them. So the teachings is HaTorah or HaTorah. How do I say it in here? Yeah, VeHaTorah. So HaTorah or the Torah means the divine teachings, and then you have the mitzvot, the divine commandments. Okay, so Exodus chapter 24, verse 13. Vayacham Moshe v'Hoshua me'sharto vayel Moshe achacha Elohim. So Moses and his attendant Joshua arose, and Moses ascended the mountain of God. Ve'el chazu kenim amar shevu lanu bezeh asher nashuv elechem ve'hinei acharon or Aharon, Vechu imachem mi va'a divraim yagash Elohim. To the elders he said, he had said, wait here for us until we return to you. You have Aaron and Hur with you. Let anyone who has a legal matter approach them. Vayamoshe Hahar Vechas He Anan et Hahar. When Moses had ascended the mountain, the cloud covered the mountain. Vayishkon Ke Vod Adonai Ahar Sinai Vechasehu He Anan Sheshet Yamim Vayikra El Moshe Bayom Hashvi'i Mitok He Anan. The presence of Adonai abode on Mount Sinai, and the cloud hid it for 6 days. On the seventh day, God called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. Umare Chevod Adonai Che'esh Ochele berosh hachar le'enei bnei Yisrael. Now the presence of Adonai appeared in the sight of the Israelites as a consuming fire on the top of the mountain. Vayavo Moshe betok he anan vayal el chachar Vechi Moshe Bachar Arba'im Yom Ve'arba'im La Yelah. Moses went inside the cloud and ascended the mountain, and Moses remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. And that is the conclusion of the Torah reading for this week, which concludes tonight at Shabbat, sunset, the parasha Mishpatim. um the best way for me to understand it, and it Mishpatim instead of rules, maybe you can have a better understanding too, as Mishpatim is could be understood as divine injunctions, because that's what we're literally reading just now, is the judicial aspect of the Torah that God gave Moses to give to Israel, as we just read right here. You have the mitzvot, the divine commandments, the Torah, the divine teachings. You have mishpatim, divine injunctions, right? Legal, civil, legal matters, even criminal. And people today don't research American history. I like to point something out. So, the founding fathers of the United States of America, what they practice, their religion that they practice, is called Judeo Christianity, because they follow the Ten Commandments of God. So even our United States Constitution, their framework, um, where did they get it from? Why would they make a constitution to govern people in the future generations, including themselves, right? And what was the issue going on? For example, freedom of religion. Well, in world history, especially in Europe, you couldn't practice your own religion if you weren't a Christian, if you weren't evangelical or Protestant Christian, if you weren't even Catholic. You were persecuted, forced to convert, under the threat or threats of murder, right? Being killed, financially stricken, impoverished, all this stuff. And during this time, you weren't allowed to read the Bible in its original languages. And you weren't even allowed to read it in the translated languages over there in Europe, because the church did not permit that. Why? I find, the rabbis say, I forget which rabbi, but if you forget history, it's going to repeat itself, right? So that's what I see happening here in the United States of America. History repeating itself, not only with the civil rights movement, the labor right movement here in the United States of America, the women's suffrage movement, right? All that's simultaneously happening right now. History repeating itself, but also I see, you know, the religious history repeating itself, where people aren't permitted to learned the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the New Testament Greek, right? So that aspect of history in world history is repeating itself today. Um, so that's why it's crucial, no matter who you are. But like I said, I'm actually reaching out to the hoods all over the United States of America because, you know, I'm a broken person. I come from a broken family. I come from a broken community. I come from a broken society. I come from a broken country, the United States of America. So, in order for me, when I learned these languages in prison, like I said, I learned all three languages in 3 month time span. But there was a big messianic explosion happening in the Colorado State penitentiaries during the time I was in there back in 2008, 2009, all the way up to 2015 when I got out of there, right? But I didn't subscribe to Messianic Judaism. That was the big explosion happening in Colorado State prisons. Even in Denver, has been transformed. There's a lot of Messianic Jews and non-Jews. I don't know who they are. They have their communities, um, but I don't subscribe to Messianic Judaism. When I was in prison, the person who I call my rabbi or my teacher, right? I mean, got to give credit to the person that teaches you what you know, right? First, that's God, and then this man. And, I asked him, what is Messianic Orthodox Judaism? What does that mean? And he told me it means coming to the truth with facts. And when I understood that, what he told me, I asked him again, what does Messianic Orthodox stand for? What does it mean? And he said, this is Orthodox Judaism with the inclusion of the Messiah, the Melech Mashiach, not Jesus Christ, but the King Messiah. So, from these brief experiences with this man, and keep in mind, I'm in prison too, right? Got all the brothers around me. People are tripping out because I consumed a lot of information in that time span of 3 months. People were asking me for spiritual advice. Um, I mean, and then I have a brother that, I just spoke to about, we began to talk just 1 year ago, and we're actually related through marriage from my brother and his cousin. This guy, subscribes to Messianic Judaism, but he learned the biblical Hebrew. He took in a lot of information during this time, and he had a similar experience too, where other inmates were asking him for spiritual advice in their real life. When you're in prison and you have a wife, girlfriend, you have your mom and dad. If you're fortunate, you have your brothers and sisters and cousins and friends, right? But mainly, it's hard on a man and it's hard on a woman who's incarcerated and they're in a relationship. It is so difficult because I told guys, look, you have to understand, here in prison, this is our reality. We're in a whole different world. And the people out there, that's their reality and they're in a whole different world. You can't control a man or a woman when you're incarcerated, and why would you want to control another person in the first place if you're free with them, right? And I just pointed out, look, whether if you're here in prison for committing a crime, right? And or if you're innocent. 'Cause I also point out too, look, there's a whole lot of people around us that we don't even know what they're in here for, and a lot of them are going to be innocent, And then here came Tim Masters or Timothy Masters, right? Being exonerated, accused of a crime. And this is the white kid right in the suburbs, going back to early 1990s, accused of I think it was sexual assault on a woman, and then accused of murdering her and um, for removing her her reproductive system. But so that's what he, I never came across this guy, but during in prison, we still have the Rocky Mountain News Agency in Denver, Colorado. It seems like they're giving accurate information for for newspaper, and they're no longer there in Denver. But that was a story about that guy. 10 years in prison, didn't even commit the crime. And this is, when you read about him and the story behind him, what got him indicted or what got him convicted, right? Because the woman that was murdered, she had her reproductive system professionally removed, right? I mean, and this kid was only like around 15 or 16, Timothy Masters. And what the jury found him guilty for the crime in itself was wrong, but this is coming from these religious communities that judge people. People can't even read the Bible in Greek, but they want to tell you what's right and wrong. And they convicted him based on the evidence because this dude, listen to heavy metal, rock and roll, hard rock. He had pictures. The detectives raided the house and subpoenaed the house and went in there and took writings of people, not just women but men, decapitated, missing, body members, things like that, and listening to hard rock and roll, right? That's what got him convicted. That's what the jury convicted him on in connection to the murder. So imagine that. And this guy went to the service too. So he was charged. I think the charges he was. I think he remained. I think Timothy Masters remained a suspect in the murder for a few years because I know he completed high school and he went into the military. And I think during the military, he was arrested or afterwards and charged with the murder and then convicted by the jury, right? Based on their belief. They're Christians, they believe in God, and or believe Jesus Christ is God, and they convicted him based on the manner of this young man. Not because he committed the murder, but because he had a label on him. He listened to heavy metal. He had pictures of, just drawings of bodies missing limbs, and he was convicted, sent to life in prison. So when you're sent to prison in Colorado on a sex crime, that's bad. You're gonna endure so much abuse. You'll be lucky if somebody kills you right there on the spot. But you'll go through a lot of mental and emotional suffering in Colorado state penitentiaries for a sex crime. And this cat was accused of a sex crime based on religious people with their faulty belief system. Right? Hold on. You don't follow the laws of God, so how are you saying this guy is right or wrong in the first place? Right? No connection to the murder at all. The FBI even told their prosecutor that whoever killed this woman knew her, probably dated her, and what we're dealing with is a person that's going to be a surgeon, right? A medical doctor who excised this woman's reproductive system professionally. Imagine that. You really think this kid's going to be able to do? None of us. I didn't even know about a sexual, reproductive system of women until I read this article and other articles while I was in prison. So come find out, good thing Timothy Masters spent 10 years in prison, right? But the good thing is he had his attorney and people that were supporting that he was innocent because this is the court of law. You're not you're not supposed to go into the court system, especially with the jury. The jury's not supposed to judge you and convict you on your belief that's contrary to their belief. Because remember, they don't follow the laws of God. They're saved by grace. And that saved by grace theology goes against what Paul, who we call Rav Shaul, in Romans chapter 6. Because the question is that Paul rises right there in chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Since we're saved by grace, shall we continue to sin? He said, Chas kakila, God forbid. How can any one of us After hearing, so now I'm paraphrasing. If we heard the message of this guy, Jesus Christo, Jesus Christ, how are any of us still continuing to sin when he commanded us to stop sinning? So how can we live a life involved in sin, right? But once again, we're dealing with these faulty religions that don't even know what constitutes a sin. Right there in First John chapter 3, I think 11. No, chapter 4 or chapter 3 verse 4. First John chapter 3 verse 4. You get this guy, right, the author John Yochanan, you get his definition of what constitutes a sin. And he says it clearly: violation of the law, the Torah, right? Violation like of the Mishpatim, the divine injunctions parasha we just read this week. So this guy, Timothy Masters, eventually was exonerated. Got paid too. I think it's like $1 million per year you're falsely incarcerated. It took 10 years for his defense attorney to get all this paperwork that the district attorney office in Colorado was hiding. And I forget which city it was. Could have been, I know it was Jefferson County, but Jefferson County is huge. You have a lot of cities that's covered by Jefferson County. And the evidence they these people had 10, 15 years before, that went after this kid because he listened to heavy metal, probably smoked some weed too, right? And drew pictures of dismembering bodies, human bodies, right? That's what got him convicted. No evidence tied to the murder of this woman. So they find out, check this, this is what's crazy. And this is why I'm out here wanting to teach people biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. Because everything I'm going to tell you about what you learn at the church, like I did, everything I'm going to tell you now is going to contradict everything you're being told by the church, those spiritual leaders, right? It's going to contradict, but you would have to decide, and I don't want to get into a theological debate, but who are you going to believe? Your pastor might be a pastor over there, but can he, on any given notice, pull out the Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the Greek and show you in the original languages where he's getting his doctrine from? Or are you going to listen to a kid that's been to prison, been to gangs, come from these broken communities, right? With the sixth grade education, but who can read the Bible in biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek? And I learned these languages while in prison. So who would you believe, right? Well, obviously, I'm saying phrases like a lot of people don't know that they're psychological slaves. Yeah, slavery ended in the United States of America. It wasn't only the black communities impacted by slavery. Go ask the Asian Americans. They'll tell you about their great grandparents that were enslaved, just like the Mexican Americans, the Native Americans, even other European immigrants that came here were enslaved. So who are you gonna believe? Person with higher education, according to the world system, that refuse to study the Bible in its original languages, and they refuse to teach you. They don't encourage you to learn the biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. It's so easy to learn these languages. Our tax money should be paying into our public schooling to learn the Bible in its original languages. So you want to talk about creating jobs, and then I would recommend to go and research Islam because they also follow the laws of God. But I bring up Timothy Masters because he's white. Imagine that, going to prison, being abused. He got eventually paid $10 million, but look at what happened. So the evidence comes out. The field where this body was, of this poor woman was discovered, and condolences to her family. She dated a doctor, a medical doctor. So now we're dealing with the person that's a pillar of the community, right? A medical doctor, a surgeon. So when they raided his house, he already committed suicide. He caught wind because this is how the evidence. This is what the FBI was telling the district attorney before they even convicted and even arrested Timothy Masters. You know, they had enough evidence. They knew who it was. It was the doctor that lived across the street from the field. That the woman, he was the last person that seen this woman because that was his ex girlfriend, right? So now we got caught up in a love affair that another, poor white kid got accused of committing a heinous crime. Because in prison, those cats, they hear about that stuff, they want to wipe you out. And if they don't wipe you out, if you have a lot of money, your family's going to be sending you money and them money for your own safety for the rest of your life in prison. So all these cats committing mass shootings, shooting at the rabbis and stuff. A lot of people in the hood don't know that their ancestors were Orthodox Jews. So what's going to happen is I'm out here putting this information out there because I'm proof. I have friends that are proof back in Denver, Colorado. That means Denver, Colorado is a huge population or has a huge population of Jews who don't know that they're Jews. But with Timothy Masters, the doctor across the street had killed this woman, sexually assaulted her. How did he cover up the evidence from the sexual assault? By removing her reproductive system. Can you imagine that? And when they raided this doctor's house, he already committed suicide. But by the time they raided his house and they found his body, they found security cameras in his bathroom. So being rich, right? Being influential in the community in society, you're a medical doctor. You will never harm your patients. He used that title, that what would you call it? Entitlement, right? And you should be upheld by the community that you're going to save. So he used all that, the stuff that he, went to school for, to have that title that he's a medical doctor, a surgeon. He would never harm his patients, right? Those are the least people in our society that you want to offend, right? Disrespect, right? And you see them, hey doctor, how you doing? We're supposed to uplift these people, but then you have the people that become criminals with these degrees and they have their influence, they have their education, their money, right? Dude was a Christian too. So yeah, you're gonna listen to this cat. I would never harm anybody. But the FBI was telling the prosecution, the district attorney office, look, this is what we uncovered. This is who you're looking for. Not the little poor white kid who's listening to heavy rock, has pictures of decapitating, or dismembering human bodies. So when they raided his house, they found security cameras in the doctor's bathroom. So all the elite people, right on his level with higher education, money, influence, power, was going, bringing their wives to these to his dinner parties, while this doctor had security cameras in the bathroom, recording multiple men and women using the restroom in his residence. So you see, the point is, it takes education today to get out of the mass confusion. And don't think the mass confusion you're experiencing, right, on the individual basis right here in the United States of America, that it's only us in the United States of America experiencing mass confusion. This mass confusion is all over the world. And it's going to take education in the Bible, returning to God in truth and sincerity, right? Gotta keep it real with God. He's the one causing the mass confusion. He's the one allowing it to happen because we're at a point in man's history where man, right, human beings want to live according to how they see fit the world should be. Just our great our grandparents and great grandparents 2 generations ago were more were holier than any of us today. They had a functioning society. You had good people and bad people governing the United States of America. But today, you know, the wicked people, Rashim, what the biblical Hebrew wicked people has increased. So it's not limited to just poor people. Because back in the day, like I said, the strongest economy, the strongest country in the world, the United States of America, failed us in our broken communities. But you can't really say they failed us because they're the ones that created the environment that we're in the first place, impoverishing our communities. I grew up with liquor stores all over the place. And guess who I seen all around me in Southwest Denver? Because I'm from the Westwood Projects in Denver, Colorado. I saw, even though I lived in the projects, I saw a lot of Native Americans too going to those liquor stores. So there was a high population of Native Americans when I was growing up, for like the first 5 years of my life that I remember. And then you had the heroin epidemic still happening in the early 1980s in Denver, Colorado. I used to walk around and seeing people dead on the sidewalks in their projects with their syringe sticking out of their arm. But I ain't no fool either. Like I said, so we're let down by a lot of political leaders and spiritual leaders. Nobody wanted to help us in the projects, and when the gangs happened, nobody wanted to help us. These pastors, ask them. They were too afraid to come in the hood. When I was gang banging, we didn't have no OGs. We're the first generations of gangs, right? The concept was Midwest, West Coast concept of gangs, whatever that was. It wasn't like somebody just got together and created a gang for the whole rest population, right? That's impoverished. Here, this is the guide to gang banging, the guide to gangs in the United States of America. There was none of that. What happened was you had the KKK in Denver still going in front of the Colorado Capitol and inciting a public riot while protected by the Denver Police Department. So this is where gangs started originating and forming in Denver. Plus you have the corrupt police, you had the good cops, the bad cops. My neighborhood predominantly, I already knew majority of the population of the United States of America are brown skin. I didn't listen to these people when they were trying to tell me, and even today trying to tell me, trying to tell all of us that, right, the Hispanics, because they hate these people that use, like in the media, newspapers, wherever. They don't like calling us Mexican. They call us Hispanic, and I keep saying, hold on, I'm not from Hispaniola. I'm a Pascual Yaqui. I'm right here from where I'm living at, Denver, Colorado. The whole southwest area of the United States of America, going down into Mexico and up in Canada, that's my ancient people. I'm Yaqui. This is my native land. What are you talking about? I'm not Hispanic, but they don't like to classify us as Mexicans because they're afraid for whatever reason. And I think the reason possibly is going back into the 1930s and the 1940s prior to World War II, when they needed jobs for real Americans. And the United States government, right, under the Republican president, illegally began to massively deport Mexican Americans from all over the United States of America to Mexico. None of these people have even been to Mexico because they're like me, they're native to the land, Southwest area, Midwest. So I think that's what they're afraid about today of so when you watch the news and read about Hispanics, right? We're not Latin, we're not Hispanics, we're Mexican American. We're actually Native Mexican American. That's another big movement happening today too, here in South America, Portugal, Spain. But on top of this, people discovering that they're Sephardic or Ashkenaz Jewish descendants. Like me, I'm Sephardic and Ashkenaz. So people can't wrap their mind around that. How are you both? Obviously, my mom was white, my dad was brown skinned. Do you see? That's how. They can't wrap their mind around it. I'm Irish German. I'm Pasquale Yaqui. I'm Native Mexican American. So Timothy Masters gets accused, right? Becomes a scapegoat. So how many other people in Colorado State penitentiaries are innocently spending the rest of their life for a crime someone else committed? And that's what these people do. They make scapegoats out of people from the hood, the poor people, the poorly educated people. So I'm trying to educate those poor people, right, including myself. Like I said, I'm from the hood. I didn't have the luxury to go to high school. I was getting accused of crimes as a kid by judges, by a system that wanted to incarcerate kids like me so they can get money from the taxpayers. Imagine that. Pops is out there working, brothers, everybody working, right? Don't even know I'm over there in a Gilliam Youth Service for something I didn't do. The judge, the prosecution, the guardian at lineman, right? The public defender. Nobody want to reach out to my parent, to my pops, to say, "Hey, we got your kid over here. He's accused of a crime, and by the way, his nose is broken, and we didn't give him no medical treatment." So the same thing with Timothy Masters, right? Because he wasn't rich, and everybody from Generation X knows exactly what I'm talking about. That church began to villainize white Americans that listened to rock and roll, heavy metal. They called them demons. They called them the Satan. Everybody knows that. Everybody from Generation X knows that. And Generation X began in 1965, and that generation from the time span of 1965 to 1981. So you know what I'm talking about. Just like they began to villainize the black kids for listening to gangster rap, and the white kids, all gangster rap it did was reach out to everybody that was in the hood. Because I'm glad I was raised in Denver, Colorado, where it wasn't segregated in the hoods. You know, I'm glad. When there's unity like that, and it's still like that too. Now you just got grown men and grown women that are in black gangs that are Mexican, Native Mexican American, and don't know they're Jews, right? Then you got the black guys that don't know they're Jews. Then you have the white guys in these gangs. That's not weakness. That's a strength. They've overcame something that no one told them about, right? The environment that was created for them to become victims in, to be nothing but slaves for people with money, right? Rich people with influence because they have higher education. And that's why the church couldn't reach out to us. They're afraid coming to the hood where we were because we're town. Sorry. We see you as a pimp. We see your congregation as prostitutes. That's how we see your whole church system. Imagine that little kids telling grown men that, and grown men can't do nothing about it. Why? Because we're in a gang. We're there to defend ourselves. Because we had a big issue in Denver, Colorado. The racism, discrimination, the police, right? Raping women. I'm from Southwest Denver, Colorado. The police, growing up, District 4 police. Yeah, I grew up hearing stories about police officers raping the women, right, from the community I come from. Like I said, I grew up with everybody, different skin colors all over Denver, right, or in Southwest Denver, being raped by police officers. Imagine that. Now you go type in on Google search Denver, Colorado, District 4 police station, police officers accused of raping women. You see it? That just came out 10, 11 years ago. And that's the system that we grew up in and didn't know about, even our own kind. I'll tell you a story going back into the early 1980s that I remember. My older brothers, I have two older brothers, they're, 10, 11 years older than me. And I was at home in the projects. My dad was there. They came in the front door. I was playing in the front room. I was still a toddler, like 3 or 4. I remember all this stuff. And I remember seeing a Mexican dude out there, dark skin, right, bald head, in a uniform. It was a cop, right, 5-0, police officer. Heard some commotion in the kitchen where my dad was with my older brothers. My dad just, cause my dad's, Yaqui, plus we're African descendant, Asian descendant. He probably even he didn't even know this. Maybe he did. I don't know. My dad walked around with a chip on his shoulder. So if you know anything about the Indian boarding schools, my dad and his sister were victims too there by the church system. But anyways, my dad opened the screen door, right, like right in the face of the police officer because he was trying to come in. It was like split seconds what transpired in the kitchen with my brothers, and my dad came out in a hurry to the front door, and that police officer was trying to come through, right? You gotta have a search warrant. But once again, we got a bad criminal, we got a criminal, right? The real criminal are these people that I'm mentioning with higher education that use their trust from the community as a weapon, right? As a shield to protect themselves from being prosecuted while they commit crimes against impoverished people. Whatever my dad told this dude in Spanish, I don't speak Spanish. My dad did. He was fluent. I wish I would learn Spanish, and that's going to be my fifth language that I work on. I know a little bit of Yaqui, you know, so I guess I can understand five languages, six, even six languages if you want. I know a little bit of Spanish, but whatever my dad told this cop got on his face. This cop went from, because my dad was dark skinned too, and so was this guy. What was his name? The police officer. Um, man, Castro. Look him up. 1980s, the District 4 police station, police officer named Castro. I don't know his first name, but it's spelled Castro. I'll have to look it up on Google search and see if this cat, where he's at. Did he eventually die? He get die at work, or did he get turned in to somebody start listening to the community and arrest this guy? But there's many cops like this. Whatever my dad told this dude in Spanish, he went from dark skin to white, looking like a ghost. And it's probably the first time I see my, heard my dad speaking Spanish, anyways. But and my dad's a Yaqui. He's a big dude. He was like 6'6". And that police officer just jaw dropped, turned pale, and that was the end of that conflict with this police officer Castro in District 4, Denver, Colorado, harassing my older two brothers for no reason. Right? My brothers weren't involved in any gangs. We're impoverished, trying to make the best out of what we have. It's like everybody else in the community, right there in their projects. So, good thing Timothy Masters got out. So that's the generation I come from, where people failed us. They chose not to help us. And they probably couldn't anyways. Why? Because we're Generation X. We're unknown. How we're going to respond to the racism that we witnessed. In 1992, that was the last time the KKK went publicly in Denver, Colorado to protest, right? Or not protest, but commit a public riot on Martin Luther King Day. And I like to point out too, look how drastically things have changed here in the United States of America. If the way, like I said, these Supreme Courts, these Supreme Justices, the way they interpret the Constitution, it's only to make money. Because going back to 1992, for example, what these are KKK. They got you don't know who they are, but I guarantee you probably had police chiefs that were there, governors, mayors, politicians in Colorado, right? Covering up their identity. But anyways, they weren't out there with no guns because 30 years ago is how they correctly interpreted the United States Constitution. These lobbyist Supreme Justices that's in office today, they want the corporate America, whoever these people are, they want us to kill each other while they make billions of dollars. Last 2 years, right? Corporate America has made record profits, Can you imagine that? Off of us getting guns, wanting to kill each other, killing the cops. Now, I understand the police that are bad that are getting killed out there. You know that. I mean, what do you say? I don't condone it, but that's something logically I would expect. Something so rational, right? You're gonna be a police officer. You're gonna abuse people. Eventually, you're gonna abuse the wrong person, and they're gonna take your life. And hopefully, it stops right there. You know, but we have to use, you know, the Bible in an unprecedented way. When our ancestors were denied the basic human right to self-educate themselves, right? To be smart. We have that opportunity today, but you have to go around people that aren't going to charge you money. You're going to have to go to through people like me, and there's other people that are willing to teach you this stuff. Not because they want to be your rabbi, not because they want to be your pastor, not because they want to be your judge, not because they want any, people to respect them and give them a title. Nah, the real leaders, you know who you are. You probably had a notion all your life you're a leader because you always stood up for what's right, especially if you're in gangs, right? I remember being in gangs, praying to God, please get me out of this one. I have to go with the flow. Because if I don't, I could get killed by my own friends. Plus, the community is broken. Society, I see the whole system, the whole judicial system is just a trap. God, and I have to make this money. I have to get paid today. And I was just a kid, you know what I'm saying? Praying to God. So God, hey, I'm not saying to protect me while committing this crime. I'm just saying, look, I'm aware. And I was just a little kid. Like I said, I only had sixth grade education. Imagine that. I could have started a whole big gang. I mean, it's crazy, but I chose not to because I always seen gangs. What I seen, what it did to us in Denver, Colorado. It divided all of us. Friends I grew up with in the projects, right? And from Bloods, friends over there from Crips, GDs, Latin Kings now, all this stuff, GKI, syndicates, Northsiders, Northside Mafia, the Inca Boys, right? All it did was divide all of us. The gangs I grew up to hearing from the South Side were like the South Side Stillies and the Westwood Hoods. And remember, I was there in 1980, 81, developing as a little kid, right? And the gangs weren't like this. I grew up in a generation where people are still breakdancing on their cardboard. But I'm giving back to anybody that can relate to me, anybody that been told you're not going to be something, you can never be anything, and you have criminal records. So obviously you're committing crimes, right? That judgment, that's what I'm talking to. People that are weighed down, right? Spiritually weighed down, that are going through depression, suffering with addiction, people living, you want to talk about paycheck to paycheck, please. I know cats that are trying to do the right thing that are making less than minimum wage at work right now. So I'm reaching out to you guys, the people that were left out, like me, right? Come learn this biblical Hebrew. All you have to do, the money you have to spend, is going to invest your education. And where you begin with is getting yourself a pen or pencil. You go right to Family Dollar, right? Dollar General, less than $5. You can have a pack of pens or pencils and writing paper. Download the Sefaria app that I'm reading from. Press subscribe to my channel. Share me around. I'm not doing it to make money so I can get private jets and everything. I'm trying to get something going. It's going to take a lot of education in the Bible, dealing with God, understanding who Jesus Christ is, understanding how the New Testament isn't infallible, but fallible in many areas. Being able to see the truth, returning to God. Because, like I said, Our parents and grandparents, prior to Generation X, they didn't have the opportunity like what that we have today to read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And if you choose not to, then I'm not saying to stop doing anything. You still got to make money, you still got to get paid, but stop hurting yourself. Stop hurting other people. I can't prove to you God's real, but look at, I mean, something tangible here. I can read the Bible in biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and the New Testament Greek without going to college, without being part of a religious institution, while being incarcerated in the worst environment in the United States of America, right? While still running with my brothers in prison. I could have been snuffed out in there too, especially when they found out, look, man, I'm a Jew. They don't like Jews in prison either. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got one of your own kind saying, hey, look, this is all real. I'm a Jew too. You guys are too. We've been told lies, right? Now, if I couldn't demonstrate, I can't read the Bible in biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek, them guys would have offed me off. They would have effed me off. I'd have been snuffed out. Why? Because they need something tangible. Why? Because we understood as little kids that church system is nothing but pimps and prostitutes. That's the truth. That's why they couldn't reach out to us in the hoods. That's why the spiritual leaders were afraid, right? Oh, you believe in Jesus Christ as God? Then how come you ain't in the hood trying to preach to us? Because we'll tell you, hey, you got to go back where you come from. That stuff don't work over here. We have all these society problems, community problems. We didn't create these problems. We're born in these problems, right? So we got to get ours. Yeah, we believe in God, but we don't believe what you're saying is true about God. That's why they were ineffective. And we got to learn these languages so that we can repair ourselves, repair our broken family. It doesn't have to be broken. Anything that's broken in the world with the technology we have today, we are sure already know. If it's broken with all the technology we have, it's easily to fix. But we have to begin the transition of our minds, right? Being educated the correct way about God. And that's going to be the Orthodox rabbis. If you would just listen and understand, these are holy people. God really created Israel as a nation, a holy nation to serve him. Jesus Christ is real. Not everything according to the New Testament is real about him, but he's real. He's a Pharisee. His disciples are Pharisees. That's why if you read all the letters of Paul, he never uses Christianity one time, never mentions Christians one time. When he went in front of the Sanhedrin, even foreign governments that were, the Greco-Roman government that governed, Israel and the Middle East during that time. Paul's from Turkey. He's going to be from the area that my ancestors came from, Mesopotamia. But he never said he was a Christian. He said, "Look, I'm a Pharisee. I'm being judged for being a Pharisee, like all my parents were, because I believe in the resurrection of the dead." That's all Pharisees, and you have to understand Jewish history during this time. You had the Sadducee Judaism, and then you had the Pharisee Judaism. Obviously, Jesus Christ came from the Pharisees because the Sadducees, when you start hearing these rabbis, the ones that are willing to talk about Jewish history, right? Like Rabbi Yehesko Ataki, he's not an Orthodox rabbi. This guy, just a few years ago, was in Canada, in Toronto. He was the Messianic rabbi in Messianic Judaism, right? Governing the Jews and non Jews in Toronto, Canada for a lot of years. And where's he at today? Because no matter how much the truth was that showed everything he was told by that church system was in error, right? Because that's what's going to happen to anybody. You want to go, you want to know the truth about God? You want to learn these languages? God's going to shed light on all the fallacies that you're told by that church system, like Rabbi Yehezkel Ataki. So where's he at today? Well, he left the Messianic synagogue. Imagine that. I don't know how much they pay these rabbis, but that's a job. It's a job. Imagine getting paid a lot of money to do what you enjoy, especially when it comes to education. Not only just educating yourself in God, right? Because Rabbi Yataki over there, he's from the East Coast. He grew up in gangs or affiliations with gangs, and he's a Jew too. So, and his personal research led to the conclusion, like me and a lot of other people that are willing to take that risk in life to lose everything in order to gain the truth about God. That's why my monkey self over here is Sephardic and Ashkenaz descendant. Imagine that, right? Telling other people, oh, hey, sorry, that's that church system telling you that you can't be a Jew, telling you that Jews are only white skinned, that there ain't no black Jews, there ain't no Asian Jews, there ain't no Mexican Jews, there ain't no Native American Jews, there ain't no, you know, Arabic Jews, African Jew, everybody, right? That's that church line to you guys, trying to make it seem right, 'cause that's still part of white supremacy. That's why their depiction of Jesus Christ, blonde hair, blue eye, right? That's all from white supremacy ideologies of the past of the United States of America. And remember, you're right there in the hood right now. You know what I'm talking about. You can go to Walmart, you can go to your gas station, go to your public school over there, take your kids, right? So how are you racist? How are you hating people that are different skin color of you if we interact with one another on a daily basis, right? And that's that mass confusion I'm talking about. And that's coming from that church system, lying to everybody, keeping us as psychological slaves. But now, since we're dealing with God, now we have something tangible going on. Yeah, people are learning biblical Hebrew right now. People are learning Aramaic. People are learning the New Testament Greek. You got this new movement going around, and they're called B'nai Noach, the children of Noach, that God originally gave the seven Noahide laws for the descendants of Noach to follow, the non Jewish people. And then you have people like me violently discriminated, right? When it's a government, when it's a state government trying to F you off, look, these are professionals. I should be dead, but I'm not. Why? Because I was doing my tshuva, right? It's not repentance. I was returning to the Torah, to the logic of God, the education of God. I was returning to Him by knowing these three languages, right? I took that risk in prison, put my life on the line, and it paid off. Like I said, I was giving spiritual advice to a lot of people. They know who they are. When they see this video, they remember. And I was trying to teach them these languages too, because I'm that type of guy. I don't get off on stepping on people to have things in life. I grew up beating up the bullies, you know? I'm that kid that came from the group of the nerds, I was over there with the nerds and stuff, man. And because I'm Native American and black and Asian and all these other, and German and Irish, so I was the biggest kid around me. And I didn't use that to intimidate kids. You liked me, you did, you didn't. I left you alone, you left me alone. But when the bullies came, then obviously I'm the biggest one, so I had to end up throwing down and getting in trouble for doing the right thing, right? But I'm that guy that gets off on seeing other people succeed. When people gave up on you, don't commit suicide, don't commit mass shootings, don't hurt anybody because you're hurting. I've been there. I had every right just 5 years ago. The past 5 years, I had every right to do what people are doing in society today. I had every right. Because when you're, like I said, when you, and just think about it. I came back here on because I had a warrant in Amarillo, Texas. They incarcerated me for 30 days, wouldn't let me see the evidence. There was no due process. They wouldn't give me an attorney because I was indigent. I'm a poor man, right? I just got crushed 2 years before, or the year before, right? Crushed with an excavator bucket at work, 5 tons. I should be dead. Denied medical treatment, right? Then I was assaulted and knocked out by a medical doctor for filing a workers' compensation claim. And then in Cinco de Mayo of 2018, a month and a half before I got crushed, a superintendent didn't like my skin color, didn't like me requesting Passover off that year, and he hit me in the back with an excavator bucket. That's why my stomach sticks out today, and I was denied medical treatment too. So I have every right to commit the crimes people are doing in society today. But what I choose to do, I chose to lose everything once again: car, home, clothes, designer cologne, my Oakley glasses, my frames. They almost cost $1,000. I had to let it all go. Had to lose it all because when no one's willing to help you, you better believe that's from God. When you're dealing with people that are politicians and police officers and medical doctors and they're committing crimes against you, like this is something they've done for years. That's what kind of system that God brought me into down here. So don't feel bad about me. I feel bad for everybody that's living under these conditions and don't know they are. Because on top of the physical assault and the emotional assault, these people psychologically raped me. It was so bad. I felt bad for these people, these doctors, these police officers. I kept asking myself, asking God, how could they do this? How could they risk their own freedom, their own career? I wasn't asking for money. All I was asking for was medical treatment. Am I going to be safe? Am I going to die? Is this a freak accident? I just got freaking crushed. My whole body was crushed by an excavator bucket, And what did they do? They psychologically raped me when I asked for help. And then I'm feeling bad for them. Almost went homeless, right? Not going into a depression because all this happened to me, but because these people with higher education, higher responsibility that know better than any of us not to commit crime against humanity, right? I was feeling bad for them. Almost went into a depression over them. But that's psychological rape. That's psychological abuse. When, you know, the abuser not only physically and emotionally rapes you, but psychologically rapes you and terrorizes you. I ain't never felt no fear in my life, dog, until this stuff happened to me. I felt terror in my balls. That's how, and these are professionals. These are professional terrorists. So, and that's what they did here, and they're currently doing here in Amarillo, Texas. But they eased off because, like I said, I already passed their medical, um, what's it called? Their medical, I guess, judgment or probabilities. Their medical probabilities. I should have died. It was a freak accident. I got crushed. When you get crushed and denied medical treatment, and you're back to work the next day, you know trust me, that's from God, and they're going to give medical probabilities, especially after that doctor assaulted me. I had contusions on my brain from being crushed that they never told me about. I have the records now, but when you have contusions on your brain, what about the swelling? My freaking left eye was sticking out. It sticks out a little bit. 5 years later, I should be dead. What about the contusions on my scalp? Right? I'm probably running around with a broken neck and broken back still 5 years later. So they eased up, they eased off me. And when I started telling these doctors and telling these people, look, you guys did this to the wrong person, because I knew that what kept me alive was the reason God kept me alive. So obviously, I mean, if you hear the rabbis and you read like Job chapter 1, yeah, there's a spiritual court in the heavens with God, the Satan, the fallen angels, the angels, the good angels, right? That year, obviously, how Satan was wanting me to tell God that it's time for me to go. because I was sinning still, right? But what happened? I didn't know what was going on in the heavenly courts, but what happened down here was I started calling a synagogue. I'm coming every week. Sorry, I can't make it, but I'm coming next week. you know, for a couple months. Then all this happened, these third work accidents and stuff. And I would say, I didn't make it a synagogue. These cats don't like Mexican Jews, man. And I didn't want to go to synagogue because I didn't want to endanger the people at the synagogue, right? They had nothing to do with what happened to me. Plus, I'm mentally just, I got broke off in so many ways. I don't want to frighten people during this time. I need help. Look what's happening to me. That's what it felt like. I was, like I said, I was terrified, terrorized by these people so bad. I could feel the terror in my balls, man. But what kept me alive was I was showing signs of the real tshuva that the rabbis talk about. Reading the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, New Testament Greek, right? I was buying my Shabbat candles, my Shabbat candle frame, had my little yarmulke going on. Started watching videos on YouTube from different rabbis. But it's a struggle doing the real tshuva. It's a struggle. It's not like what the church says. You just ask for forgiveness and then you repeat that same behavior. And then you have less money because they want you to give them money. Those are nothing but, don't get it wrong, those are Catholic Christian methods right there. It's called indulgences. That's what caused Martin Luther to start the Lutheran movement, which led into the Protestant Christian church in Europe in just 500 years ago. But these things right here is what kept me alive. When I was homeless, yeah, man, you know, reading the Bible still. Good thing that we have technology. Because I already knew none can save me. No attorneys will represent me. The police is threatening me now. They're covering up this assault by this medical doctor, which was attempted murder. Just like at work was, the last two work accidents, those were attempted murders with heavy machinery. And all this began to happen because of Donald Trump calling us illegal immigrants and rapists and criminals and all this stuff. Then he had my own kind, right? Brown skinned people being Mexican, speaking Spanish, didn't like the fact that the thing different between me and them was they were in fear. I didn't know all this stuff was happening here in Texas in 2018. You know, these cats gave up to fight a long time ago. And that's probably the way it is in the United States of America after the 1930s and 1940s, right? The legal mass deportation by the Republican United States President Theodore Roosevelt during that time. These people are living in fear, and they betrayed me too. You should have heard these foremen telling me, man, I'm not going to give no witness. I'm pleading the fifth in your work accident because they already knew these cats are trying to murder me. And they saw a miracle happen. That miracle wasn't for me. I tell people all the time that nest wasn't for me. That was for Amarillo. That was for the rich people here. All the crimes they've been committing, obviously, they committed the wrong crime to the wrong person. Because honestly, God is with me on this one. He's with all of us, you guys. That's the beautiful thing about this story. Returning to the covenant God made with the house of Israel, those Jewish people, right? I mean, I could, once I start making money from this YouTube channel, I'll start showing you. Look at the Portugal government by Spain. They're estimating there's 200 million people in the world whose ancestors were Jews from Portugal and Spain, had to flee because of the church system, their prosecution or persecution towards those Jews back then, forcing them to convert into Christianity. That government today is estimating that there's 200 million people that don't know that they're Orthodox Jewish descendants. So what that means, right? It means Now when I open up, like for instance, for me, my wife, all these, but there's so much hatred. Okay, you have to understand there's so much hatred, but we're dealing with God. So, for example, like me, when I read the Bible, in the past, I didn't relate to anybody in that Bible. I was could, might as well be in a philosophy book or something, trying to extract some kind of wisdom from it, right? Because I had no direct connection to anybody in that Bible. But now when I read the Bible, I have a direct connection. Now I come find out I come from a line of people that were persecuted in the last 2,000 years all over the world, because my DNA, all over, it covers here in the United States of America, Canada, South America, Spain, Europe, Germany, Irish, Ireland over there, the Middle East, Mesopotamia, Asia, Cambodia, Africa, right? East Africa. So now look at me bragging about this, right? Yeah, that this is what God is doing for me, and now I have a direct connection to everything that the Bible that relates to the Bible, right? Doing the right thing. So Mishpatim, if you're watching this video, learn. You can learn the Hebrew. Mishpatim, what I wrote there in the comment section, Mishpatim, that's how you pronounce it. That's how you enunciate it. That's the transliteration using the Roman letters, the English alphabet letters. That's a transliteration from the Hebrew. So you see, this is what it's like when the king calls. I'm not doing it for money. Justice will come in like my workers' compensation claim, all these crimes these cats committed, these political leaders, including Mayor Ginger Nelson, when she sent two police officers to my place of residence just to relay a message to intimidate me. That justice will come eventually when God dictates it, right? But this is what I leaned on. This is what kept me alive in the last 5 years. Every day of my life today, I live in so much pain, but I'm pushing forward with God. Got to. I could have had every excuse to commit crimes, what you're seeing in society today. Anybody, in fact, anybody in their right mind will commit the crimes that you're seeing in society today if you were dehumanized in the manner I was dehumanized. In fact, I'm actually protected by the Second Amendment to bear arms because that United States Constitution Amendment is talking about when any government in the United States of America, it could be a town government, it could be a city government, a state government, or it could be, God forbid, all the United States government. When it becomes to act like as a tyranny, these cats are trying to say, oh, the Democrats or they're operating like a tyranny. No, they're not. They're just as bad as the Republican states, but a lot better because at least in these progressive states, these blue states, you got the racists, the criminals, corporate America, battling with the politicians that are all different, that are white, black, Mexican, Native, Asian. So in a sense, you could say that's a battlefield happening, a spiritual battlefield in these progressive states, where women have the right to decide their own health care when the LGBT community, right? A man falls in love with the man. In these progressive states, they're protected. Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of these LGBTQ people, they go to church too, and they're more righteous and holy than you are. That are sitting there judging them. But remember, this is Mishpatim. This is when the king calls, right? You're supposed to have tangible evidence to show people that, look, I have some form of contact or been contacted by the king of the Jews, right? Yud Hey Vav Hey. Not Jesus Christ, not with the New Testament. I'm talking about the king of the Jews, God. Elohim, right? El Shaddai. Yud Hey Vav Hey. You're supposed to have some kind of tangible evidence. You're supposed to have stories to tell with the moral point. So you see, the moral lesson in my life story over here is that God is with us. I'm just super sensitive to God. And it's probably other people that are more super sensitive to God today. And what does he want? He wants us to return to him, not by no faulty belief system. No, you got to give up your life to return to God. You got to be willing to lose it all to get into this level of being some sort of a leader, right? Because you anybody with the logical mind would say, "Hey, that guy over there, he could be a leader because he reads the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and he's willing to teach people this stuff, and he don't want no money. He just wants people to start hurting himself and stop hurting other people, right? And we all need each other. So that's the moral lesson. That's what I experienced in the last 5 years. But I knew this all my life. But now it's just ever clear. We all have to return to the seven Noahide laws. Whether you're a B'nai Anus like me, right? A Ben Anus, if you're a child of one of the first ones, you discover that you're a Jewish person. Hey, this is the high calling, is to become a Jew, to reattach yourself to the house of Israel. So if you can just fly right in, then do it. But if you're having struggles like me, right, start following the seven Noahide laws. And when it comes to Jesus Christ, look, I'm gonna tell you the guy who I call my rabbi, my last conversation with him when I was homeless and he was homeless, we came out of prison. This dude was up in his 80s too. And he's a white dude, but check this out. I said, what about Jesus Christ? They say this and that. And I told him, look, just from what you told me in my own personal research, now I read the Bible in these three languages because you made it possible. You didn't teach me them, but you made it possible. I seen someone that in prison that was telling people, wanting to teach people these languages. So when I asked them, I said, "What about Jesus Christ?" So they said, "I don't believe in that, dude." I said, "I read the Greek New Testament. I'm studying it and all this stuff, and there's so many contradictions in there. Is he the King Messiah?" I said, "Look, I want to know from you, from all your research, all your education." He said, "The truth of the matter is, Isu Christo over there, 'cause that's how he says his name in the New Testament in Greek, Isu Christu." But anyway, she said, nobody today can prove. We know he's not God. The New Testament doesn't say he's God. The thing is, we can't prove that he's the King Messiah. But remember, I'm talking to my rabbi now. I took it upon myself to become my rabbi. I gave him that esteem, just like many others did too. But he said, we can't prove Jesus Christ is real in the sense that he's King Messiah. We know he's not God. We know he existed. We have his students' writings. We know the New Testament isn't correct. It's incorrect. A lot of mistranslations and things that were taken away from the New Testament and things that were added to the New Testament. Oh, after the original authors had wrote these things down, he said, when the King Messiah does come, then we'll find out if Jesus Christ is real. That's the only way anybody will find out. And that's the truth about him and his students, all that stuff. But what does the New Testament say? What's the general message? The general message is that the King Messiah came to Israel almost 2,000 years ago. Okay. Eventually, he was betrayed by the Sadducees, the Zedukim, even his own disciple, right? His own Talmud betrayed him for silver, for money, had him arrested, right? And charged for treason against Rome. Why? Because the people in Israel, a huge population, was saying he was the King Messiah. These cats never said he was God. I never even viewed him as God. 'Cause he's a man. And Jesus Christ is a Pharisee, and his own student betrayed him. And the Sadducees, the Zaddukim that don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, don't believe in the prophets, you know, had held an illegal court session in the Sanhedrin at night when the public wasn't awake, when the general public didn't know about this court hearing, right? Tried, prosecuted right there on the spot, taking the Pontius Pilate, because the Zaddukim didn't, they're afraid to violate the Caesar's law. You can't commit capital punishment in your own land. And then everybody knows the story about Pontius Pilate over there, right? Jesus Christ had, convicted for treason, for being the king, right? For having people say that he's the king, which would mean that this is a king who's going to, right, just being the king itself is going to eventually, could one day rise up and rebel against the Caesar's authority in Israel and the rest of his kingdom. That's what that means when we talk about Melech Mashiach. And then he was sentenced, right? Not to a cross, Studos in Greek. It's spelled Stauros. Studo doesn't mean cross, it means a tree, piece of wood. So what was he hanged to? Well, he was hanged onto an X. Because the Romans, they have it right. The crux, Crux, right? The crucifixion, crucified. Yeah, that's not a cross. They got that from the Irish people when the Catholics invaded the Vikings over there up in the 5th century AD. And when they started seeing the Irish people, right, it was their boundary mark. The shape of a tree looked like a cross. But the Latins during this time, yeah, Jesus was hung on a X. And this is also supported in ancient Roman history too, but it's called Greco-Roman history because Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, I forget the battle on the bridge, what it's called, Megara or something. But anyways, his divine, or what was it that he saw? His divine vision, right? It wasn't a cross that he saw; it was an X. That's why. And when you read and research about Constantine, let me tell you ahead of time, what you're dealing with is a Caesar of Rome, ancient Greco-Rome, most powerful man in the world, conquering other people and lands, right? So he saw these whoever these other people were that hijacked the Greek New Testament and turned that Orthodox Judaism aspect of the New Testament right into Christianity. Caesar or Constantine, he this was a political move. He saw this as a political move to unite the kingdoms that he conquered by. And this is explains why when you start studying Christianity and you see all the what the Christians call it, the pagan symbols, right? All in Egypt mythology, Greco-Roman mythology, the sun god and all this stuff, and their symbols. Like in Egypt, you see the cross over there. It's just a little different because it has that loop on it for eternity. I think is what it represents. So Constantine saw this as a political move to strengthen his kingdom, to unite the people he conquered by allowing them to continue practicing their own religion under the disguise or the mask of Christianity. That's why the Shabbat got turned to Sunday, right? Sunday in Catholic Christianity and Protestant, evangelical, Mormonism, whatever. They're all from the Catholic Church. That's where their roots are. That's where the root is from, the Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox, and the Catholic Church, because those are the two only things that existed just prior to 500 AD with the movement of Martin Luther creating Luther is, the Luther movement and the Protestant, and then, 20, 30 years later began the evangelical movement of Christianity. So your Christianity today, so what that means is your Christianity that today, if you're not Catholic, it's only 500 years old. Go ask your pastor, go ask the scholars over there. They'll tell you if they want to tell you the truth. But that was Constantine's political maneuver to unite the people he conquered by creating this universal church or universal religion, right? And that's why you see the similarities of the New Testament concepts with the world. But it takes all this education with God, right? To do the right thing, to return to Him, to return to that tree. Because another thing, too, about the Greek New Testament, I never read the Kabbalah. I read some things about the Kabbalah from some rabbis, holy sages of Israel, 500, 600 years ago, and they gave a warning: if the Jewish man is not 40 years old, he's not allowed to study Kabbalah. Plus, you also had to be married. That was one of you know, the rules that the rabbis had back then about reading and studying the Kabbalah, because it truly is spiritually, it could spiritually ruin a person that disagrees and disobeys the original sages, right? That were able to bring down these spiritual concepts, who are able to conceptualize the spiritual concepts and then to articulate them in Hebrew. So when you go against these people, that it took them to be holy, to follow the laws of God, right? To risk their life for doing the right thing, being a witness that God is one, that God is real, that He wants everybody, the Jews and the non-Jews, to return to Him, right? To listen to His holy nation, Israel. It took all that in order for them to conceptualize the concepts on a spiritual level, to bring them down and just to articulate them in Hebrew, Aramaic. And now you get the translations and everything, because we have technology and all this stuff today. But the people, and they're probably learning, going into Kabbalah because it's Jewish mysticism or it's some kind of spirituality, you're searching for. Those concepts will destroy you. They'll make you mentally, and when I mean by destroying you, they'll mentally destroy you and emotionally destroy you. Because when you begin to meditate and ponder on what these rabbis are saying in those concepts, not everybody's mind can conceptualize what's above us in heaven. And that's why they said, there was four rabbis that went to the Kabbalah, onto the spiritual plane of reasoning. Because that's all Kabbalah is. It's a spiritual plane of reasoning. It's bringing down, conceptualizing concepts that are there and being able to understand them and then to articulate them, writing them down in books, giving um, speeches, lectures about these conceptualized concepts. They're real. That's where all of our education comes from today too. The medical and science and all that. Don't let these cats get it all, tell you today something different, because during the golden age in Europe, go research European history. That was triggered by the Kabbalah movement in, over 1,000 years ago in Europe. So it takes all this knowledge, right? All this education just to tell the truth, and for people to understand. Mishpatim, look at, yeah, non-Jews can follow the Torah too. You don't have to. keep the 613 commandments. In fact, and this is another thing I like about Orthodox Judaism. The rabbis, they tell you they don't want you to convert. They don't want you to be a Jew versus all the other religions in the world, right? They want you to convert, right? The real, the Orthodox rabbis, you can't persuade them to take your money to become a Jew. Those are the spiritual leaders you want to be around. You want to be around the men that are saying to other men, sorry, saying for you, why? It's going to be, you're going to experience so much suffering. You're going to convert. And when persecution begins against us, you're going to flee from us and go back to your old ways. So you're just going to waste our time and you're going to waste your time. So just go back. You want to be holy and religious? Go study the seven Noahide laws. You don't have to be a Jew. But like I mentioned earlier, the high calling, the real high calling is to become a Jew. And there's 200 million of us in the world that don't know that our ancestors, great grandparents were Orthodox Jews. So that makes us biologically Jewish descendants. At the moment in man's history and the history of the United States of America, we're at a crucial pivot. It don't take a rocket scientist to go out there in society and witness immorality, right? Good thing people aren't amoral because amoral means that they don't have any morals. Immoral is just a little bit better than being with no morals. People know right and wrong, but they're choosing to do wrong and taking pleasure in doing wrong. And that's what we're seeing in society today. There's no other way. There's no other way to prevent from what's happening. What we're seeing is a spiritual collapse here in the United States of America. That's why, the real Jewish spirituality has to do with concepts, has to do with emotions, has to do with right and wrong. It has nothing to do about resurrecting people from the dead. It has nothing to do with making someone's arm grow. No, it has nothing to do with that. And that's why I said, the miracles performed here in Amarillo wasn't me, that was God showing these people, you know, that he, I didn't know God was bringing me down there for that reason. I came down there to marry my ex girlfriend. And because all this stuff these people did, it tarnished their relationship. I went crazy. I ain't gonna lie about that. Anybody with a sound mind can logically deduce, yeah, I would go crazy too. What you're talking about, that's pure insanity right there. That's something I fear. I would never want to experience that. But you experienced it and you came out okay? Yeah, because God is with me. He's with all of us. That's why I'm trying to teach people to read. I'm teaching my friends, wife, anybody that's willing to take that risk, take that chance, that want to lose it all to gain the resurrection of the dead, right? 'Cause that's real. Ancient civilizations, if you go study ancient civilizations, every one of them, they believe in some kind of God. So, you know, and that's another thing too, people don't believe in God today. Cool, don't, you know, but you're still, look, when, the vision I see here in the United States of America and the rest of the world is us from Generation X that come from these gangs, that come from these penitentiary systems, that come from, you know, these impoverished communities. When we begin to educate ourselves in God and begin to understand the biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, then we can commit, we can create, we can fix ourselves and our families. That's the second thing to fix. The third thing is you're fixing your community. The fourth thing is fixing the society you live in, right? The fifth thing is the country you live in by simply doing what? Not murdering, right? Not only believing in God, but knowing that God is God, not being sexually promiscuous, not hurting animals, not speaking leshon hara, evil speech towards one another, right? In order to ruin someone's reputation, to tarnish their reputation, not to steal from people, being satisfied whether you're rich or poor, being satisfied in the position God has decreed for you to be in. And that's what I learned too. I had stuff, all this happened, lost my truck, everything, right? And I owned my truck. I had my own car title. I owned my, but I lost this stuff. Yeah, that stuff hurt. Losing all this stuff. Walking around homeless in Denver, designer clothes, Calvin Klein coat. Good thing it was wintertime in Denver. But it hurt to lose that stuff. And then, I went through a lot of mixed emotions. I'm seeing people happy driving in their cars, going home, going to work. When you're homeless and you're seeing that stuff, yeah, man, whether you brought your own homelessness upon you, or if other people did, like in my case, but come find out all those people that are homeless, majority of them, go hear their stories, go find out why they're homeless in the first place, and you'll find out that the rich and the powerful, influential people have started some kind of war against American society to impoverish us to control us, right? We're purchasing their stuff, their food that's bad, purchasing weapons to fight one another, right? They're causing conflict, they're causing division, they're terrifying your mind, making you think you're being raided by Mexicans, right? Like some kind of Mexican war group coming here from Mexico to rape and pillage America, right? Because that's what the church created here in the United States of America, these misconceptions about people so that they can control people, so they can commit all the crimes that we're accused of or we experience in these broken societies. Where do you think it comes from? When you start dealing with spiritual matters, the real Jewish mysticism, all that stuff comes from above and trickles down. So if your president is corrupt, right, and the government's corrupt, of course, everything else is going to be corrupt. And usually here in the United States of America, a lot of these, like the forefathers and the spiritual leaders, were presidents. So that's why you see all this lawlessness here in every community in the United States of America, whether you're rich or poor. It's all because people have been told to commit sin, right? But not directly, you've been told indirectly. Hey, you're saved by grace. All you got to do, ask for forgiveness every time you commit a sin, and you're going to heaven. And that's another misconception, too. If you go read Revelation chapter 20, 21, 22, God, we're not going to heaven with God. The author wrote that God is coming here to earth. There's going to be a new earth here when God comes down here. So what are we supposed to be doing? Repenting? No, that stuff is a lie too. That's wrong. It's tshuva. We're supposed to be doing tshuva, returning to the logic of God, returning to the Torah, right? The divine instructions or the divine, principles or the divine teachings of God, like Mishpatim right here, the divine injunctions. Because I already, demonstrated or told you, look, the United States forefathers that created the United States of America, one, they're funded by an Orthodox Jewish man that was a billionaire. He paid for the American Revolution and all that stuff. But anyways, the Constitution reflects the Ten Commandments because those forefathers were Judeo-Christians. They followed the Ten Commandments, and that's what carried the United States for the next generations up to our generations. That's why you see the KKK. That's why you see slavery, right? Only thing I don't like about slavery, it's only focused on the black communities in the United States of America. What about the Mexican communities and the Native American communities, right? Even the European immigrants that were forced into labor, sweatshops. All that's what led into the women's suffrage movement, anyways. You know, when we begin to see that we all have the common denominator. And the common denominator is that we're oppressed today. We might be different skin colors, different cultures. There's only one race, that's the human race, right? In different cultures. And all of our ancestors were oppressed and suppressed by the same system, the church system. You guys don't mean, I tell you, people, white people, and they, white Americans, and they not talk to them, or they question me about some things and say, hey, don't feel bad for, my ancestors, Native Americans. You think you seen all that stuff that happened to them? You heard about all this stuff that happened to the Native Americans? What do you think happened to your ancestors in Europe going back 1500 years ago when the Greco-Roman government began to go into Ireland, like Ireland, or, into Europe, fighting with the Vikings and all that stuff, right? And finally dominating the Vikings and doing the same thing they did to the Native Americans over here in Europe. I said, look, I, I like to learn stuff, and I didn't have the opportunity to go to high school or even go into college. Now, I tried to go to college plenty of times, just couldn't. I didn't have a stable environment to live in. I was always constantly trying to plant, trying to root in somewhere and then, being removed. It's like I was constantly on the go, and so I couldn't, continue college. But I tell 'em, yeah, when I start learning this stuff, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this to other people without sounding hateful or sounding like a nutcase, right? So I tell them, yeah, don't feel bad for me. I feel bad for you because you don't even know your own history. But now that you do something with it, do something good with it. But the common denominator is, yeah, this church system, the last 2,000 years, right? 1,700 years, we'll put it more into accurate context, has enslaved us. And now the last war it's waging against us is psychological manipulation. That's the real spiritual war that's happening right in front of our eyes. But because people are disillusioned, right, being beat down by, too much spiritual impurities, it's kind of hard to talk about these things in public to people without frightening their mind. Because we're talking about everything you were told about the Bible is just a translation. And what I tell you about the Bible is going to upset you, but you're already programmed to be upset towards me because you're taught by that church system not to be accountable to yourself, not accountable to your family, not to your wife, not to your husband, not to your kids, not to the community you live in, the family you come from, not the society you live in, not the country you live in. That's for narcissistic people. The real personal accountability is you being accountable for what you do, no matter if it's good or bad. And that's the real tshuva right there. That's the real, but Jesus Christo in John chapter 3 was talking to Nicodemus. I know a lot of Christians are told to badmouth the Jewish people. We got to pray for them because they're lost. No, you're caught up in a fake religion that indirectly teaches you to rebel against God, to rebel against the spiritual creator. And you think that because you go to a church, right? It's not even a community, it's just a group of people going to a place to give their money to rich people so that these rich people could live in you know, their Haba Alam or the world to come. So all these here's another way to look at these rich people. Like this is another way to defeat, overcome being jealous of people that are rich, right? And dealing with that pain of the rich coming and taking away from you. This is their Haba Alam, and this is, another concept that's brought down in the Greek New Testament is that Haba Alam, the world to come. That's God coming down here from heaven to earth. Go read Revelation chapter 20. I think it's like verse 15 or 18 that the author John describes that God's coming here on earth, the new earth, right? With the new Jerusalem, Israel, right? Which is Israel within itself. But on the other side of the spectrum, what we experience here in the physical world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So there's a spiritual Jerusalem, Israel. I mean, that's going into deep Kabbalah and stuff, right? But so they have access to unlimited education, money, right? All this stuff. They go places where I mean, they're so rich, these billionaire people and families are going into not outer space, right? But into the outskirts of Earth within itself, right? So that's how rich they are. So this is their heaven right now. That Habalam, that the resurrection of the dead is going to participate in when the King Messiah comes. The people that said, okay, you know what? I'm getting nowhere in life. I'm going with God over there. These people over there, they told me not to convert, and I stuck with it, and I converted, and I learned their language, the Bible. I learned so much. Now I'm part of a family. I'm part of a community. I'm part of a brotherhood, right? The Goof Mashiach, the body of the Messiah. But this is the rich people's time to shine. That's why they're making record profits in world history. They have the best access to anything and everything under the sun. But when they die, they're going to have to deal with God at that point. They won't encounter the King Messiah, or maybe they will too. I don't know how it all plays out in Orthodox Judaism. I was going off of what the Greek New Testament is saying, right? So obviously, the King Messiah is going to come, inaugurate the resurrection of the dead. The resurrection of the dead. They ain't going to heaven. God hasn't came down because the New Testament says in Revelation chapter 20, the King Messiah is going to. He has to, right? So it's like God already ordained all this to happen. The King Messiah of Jerusalem, of Israel, right? He's going to be a Jew. He's going to be a Pharisee. Is the Melech Mashiach going to reign from Jerusalem, Israel, right? For 1,000 years. And guess what? The resurrection of the dead, where are they going to be living at? They're going to be living right here, coexisting for 1,000 years. People are going to live natural lives that didn't participate in the first resurrection of the dead, right? And simultaneously, they're going to experience the resurrection of the dead. They're going to see family members, friends, enemies, rich, poor, people that chose to give it all up to serve God, coexisting for eternity right in front of their eyes for 1,000 years. So this implies that people are going to live during this messianic era, 'cause that's what it's called, right, for 120 years. And when they pass away, well, they have to wait for the final judgment where God is going to have and give the last say so, right? 'Cause that's what the New Testament is talking about, and that's what the book of Revelation is talking about, the resurrection of the dead. For 1,000 years, you're going to coexist. If it happened right now, hopefully I can go, be participating in the resurrection of the dead, and I'll say, look, I told you guys, look, I just told you guys 2 seconds ago. Now I'm an eternal being coexisting right in front of your eyes. And now you missed out on the first resurrection. Now you gotta wait for the second resurrection of the dead, right? When God gets the final say so. That's what Revelation chapter 20 describes the resurrection of the dead and that 1,000-year reign, the millennial reign, the messianic reign of the King Messiah. And then when the King Messiah comes, we'll find out, right? Let me see your hands. If you don't have any holes in your hands, because you're pierced, right? And your feet, your ankles, wherever, however they did it. That's another scholarly dispute. Where was he crucified? But it's not, like I said, there ain't no crucifixion in the word Greek. That's a mistranslation, an intentional mistranslation to make you think there's a cross, right? To rebel against God, to serve an idol. It's none of that. Studos in Greek doesn't mean crucifixion. It means a tree. It means a wood. Doesn't mean a cross. But that's the debate. Where was the dude puncher at? So we'll ask him, hey, let me see your marks then. Let me see your spear side. If he doesn't have this stuff, then we know he's not the King Messiah and that Jesus Christ and the whole New Testament was ultimately a fabrication. That's how it is. That's so I'm just conceptualizing when the King Messiah comes, we'll find out the truth. And then what happens when the King Messiah comes and it happens to be Jesus Christu, right? I know a lot of, because like I said, these people feed off telling people that don't know any better the Jews are the enemies, right? They don't believe in Jesus Christ, right? And then Jesus Christ appears, right? And you think he's going to judge the Jewish people? No, he's not. He's going to judge you. He's going to judge your whole church system. And be like, look, because you didn't want to listen to the rabbis in the first place 2,000 years ago. And now look at you guys are attacking them, doing all this stuff in my name. You're killing my people, my brothers, my sisters, right? Because I'm the King Messiah. They know about me, but the Torah says they can't worship me as God. And the way you fabricated me, and then you persecuted them, and then you got people like the Talking Box Show over there. He's a Sephardic and Ashkenaz descendant, and didn't even know he was being punished in his life, that he was put in these environments, these ghettos in Denver, Colorado, to fail, to become a slave, right? To be enslaved in this servitude system, to feed rich people so they can make money off of his false incarceration, right? So they can make money off the taxpayers. And he didn't want to listen to him either. So that's who Isu Cristo is going to judge. People that persecuted the house of Israel. Why? Because in the New Testament it says he's the king of the Jews. It doesn't say that this fool was sentenced to death, capital punishment of treason to be the king of Israel. And that's why it made it clear in the New Testament. No, he's the king of the Jews. He's the king Messiah. He has that title. So whatever these people told you and you went again and you bypassed your own common sense and your own logic to persecute the Jewish people because you had a group of people telling you it was the right thing, but you knew in your heart and your mind and in the neshama, the whole five components that makes up your whole existence was telling you not to do it and you bypassed it, right? Because you're desensitized to suffering now. You don't feel bad, you have no compassion, and you came against my people. What's he going to say? He's going to say, adios, amigo. You got to go to Gehenna over there. Because why should I keep you around? Did you learn the Greek New Testament? Did you learn the Aramaic? Did you learn the Hebrew? Did you advocate for people that were being ravaged by other people, that were being killed? Were you sticking up for the senior citizens? Did you put your life on the line like I did? Speaking, that's what Jesus Christ is going to say. Ask all you Christians over there. So listen to all these rich people lying to you. Like I said, you're better off putting me in office to govern you because I read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And guess what I'm going to do with the taxpayer money? I'm going to give back so we all can learn this stuff together because there's so much to learn. And we're going to reconnect with the house of Israel. And we're going to make the quality of life better here in the United States of America. We're going to make sure everybody is moving forward and not left behind. We're going to follow patterns like of Europe, people dealing and struggling with drug addiction. We'll let the government, responsible people, we're going to make sure they're paid enough so they don't commit crime and take advantage of people suffering from mental health illness or drug addiction. And we're going to make places where they can go and get safe drugs. Okay. And if they want to, they can receive treatment at their own will. 'Cause that's what other governments are doing in Europe, anyways. In other words, who made you to be the judge in the first place? You can't even read just because you got money. Look at these politicians. Look at them. Look at. I'm gonna blast George Santos over there, right? He got into office. He should have been running as a candidate, being a real LGBTQ, since he already comes from the LGBT community. He didn't have to lie about anything and falsify anything, but he did it under disguise as a Republican American citizen, right? That's all it was: psychological manipulation, emotional manipulation, behavioral manipulation. But he did it because he's getting paid a lot of money to do it. So before anybody judges him, ask yourself, if you're coming from these broken communities and families and societies you're coming from, and you're dirt broke, and someone says, "Hey, here's the plan," and you make a lot of money, and the worst thing you get, two maybe 2 years in prison. You'd be like Martha Stewart in a minimal camp, federal camp, right? Loving life in prison for 6 months or whatever it was for committing a crime. That should be a life sentence when you lie to the American public, right? But look at him telling everybody he's a Jew and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? If it sounds too good to be true, you better believe it's not going to be true. And I don't understand how the Jewish people believe that he was Jewish. I mean, does George Santos read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek? Do you see what I'm saying? Did he make any effort? I mean, did he was he raised in a synagogue? Then that's another story, right? But if he's like me, didn't even know he was a Jew in the first place, then you find out that you are a Jew, and then you can show something, some kind of tangible evidence that you are a Jew because you're reading the Bible in three different languages, right? Then that's something else. Then I can understand why they believed in George Santos, but that's a prime example what people are willing to do for money. But like I said, before you judge somebody, try being, try to be emphatic to who they are and what they're going through. You don't know why he did it. Just like anybody here in the United States of America is running for office. But what we can't see, they're not doing it for the right reason. They're just getting paid a lot of money by lobbyists to go in there and push policy that's going to cause every one of us to want to kill every one of us, and that's what we're seeing here in the society of the United States of America. That's why. Where do you think your spiritual leaders are? I mean, you guys believe in Jesus Christ and all this stuff, right? Where you guys at, right? There should have been a civil rights movement led by spiritual leaders from the church a long time ago, and they tried to, but they can't. Why? Because everybody, it seems like, you know from these impoverished communities now reflects the whole, all levels of the United States of America in different shapes and forms. meaning everybody wants to be a thug nowadays. You have the Russian president reciting Dr. Dre songs, Tupac songs. So that was the big explosion of rap, gangster rap that had on the world, right? Now everybody wants to be a thug. Shorty going to be a thug. And that's everybody today. And that's why these spiritual leaders, I mean, they already have a false belief. It's a fragile belief. That's why, when Christians try to tell me today, like, hey, man, no, look, I'm just going to keep this cut and dry. Do you read the Bible in biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek? No. Okay, so everything you're going to tell me, it's going to be false. And if I tell you something, it's going to contradict your fragile belief system. And you're going to be angry at me because you don't know that you're programmed, that you've been spiritually manipulated or psychologically manipulated to act out in some form of violence when a person is being used by God as a vehicle to shed light on that false religion and false belief that you're from, right? So that's all I tell them, and let's keep it moving, And the whole intention is that hopefully they can see, look, yeah, look at me. We all know we're all adults. When we see a person like me, like this fool, uneducated, this fool look like a thug, this fool look like an immigrant, this fool looks illegal, this fool looks like the bad brown man, bad news brown. That's what y'all can call me from now on, brother. Bad news brown, right? Because that's another tangible evidence to prove that, yeah, yeah, physical slavery ended a long time ago, but what's taken over back then and today is psychological slavery. That's why your disposition to judge me, and if you're doing that, and this is where we become adults when we're dealing with God, and we can ask these real questions without fear of any violent reprisal, right? Or of any reprisals, right? When we can say, you know what, I look at you for some reason, maybe I just was grown, I was put here in this world, and this was the environment that I grew up in, and this is what it's been like. And when I look at you, I discriminate against you, or I look less of you, and I just never thought about it because I've been around people in an environment like this my whole life, and I can see what you're saying, what you're telling me. So if you can arrive at that conclusion, you're in good shape today, right now. But if it takes you time to wrap your mind around that, then yeah, it's true. There's a lot, a lot of us are, you know, psychologically enslaved into that church system that's preaching and teaching us to demonize God and the King Messiah and the Jewish people. Condolences to those synagogues in, was it Beverly Hills, California, a couple of days ago. Good thing the FBI and the police got involved and apprehended the person. But look at, check this out. This is how I know I had some kind of interaction with God in the past. This shooter, good thing that you know there was no loss of life. But look at this person that did it. They won't even show who he is or she is, right? From the news reports I've been watching and looking at, doesn't give a name or identity of the person. But regardless, you gotta protect the person now. See, that's how and that's what's beautiful about the United States of America. Not, I'm not condoning or taking away or adding anything in a positive light or a negative light. I'm just looking at reality that this person is going to be protected by police officers in the police system, right? That's going to risk their life to die to prevent this person that just commit this mass shooting at a religious institution, right? At a synagogue of all places. But that shooter, prime example, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, whether it's federal or if it's state penitentiary, and he's going to have to suffer psychologically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally for the rest of his life in prison or her life, whoever the suspect is, right? In prison because he's going to be known for being a mass shooter. And like I pointed out in my last video, these cats coming from the hood, they discover that they are Jewish descendants and they do the right thing and return to Hashem and learn the biblical Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek so they can decipher this out if God's real or not, and how it's going to affect them the rest of their life. You're going to see the family members of these victims that are in prison, and you're going to have to deal with that. But the beauty, what's going to be heartbreaking for this guy, and I would suggest in a couple of years from now, send him a Jewish history book because this person has a high possibility of discovering that they're a that they are a Orthodox Jewish descendant. 200 million people estimated by the Portuguese government. In recent times, this was estimated. So now this person is going to find out in prison that he's actually biologically a Jew, and it doesn't matter what skin color you are, because like I said, we're dealing with everybody in here in the United States of America seems to be psychologically enslaved by the church system, so they judge you by your skin color. I don't see people by their skin color. I see people as people. But this person is going to discover that he's an Orthodox Jewish descendant and how much pain he's going to or she's going to be in discovering this in prison, and then find out the hard way, spend the rest of life in prison. Can you imagine that in the first place, spending the rest of your life in prison from a young man or young woman to becoming a senior citizen and then with disabilities in a federal or state penitentiary? Can you imagine that? You really think you can glorify something like that? The ones that do glorify this are the ones that haven't spent enough time in prison or never been in prison and don't have the pillars of these broken communities telling them, I've been there. You don't want to spend the rest of your life there. And you don't want to die. You got so much when we say you got to get older and mature, this is real. You know what my pleasures today of life is? It's not about having cars, perfect teeth, being rich, going places. It's about enjoying my time with my family and with my friends and brothers, right? People in my community, having these highly intellectual, pure, holy conversations about God. Imagine that. Like I said, I'm having chazunim visions over here. Imagine us being able to live to fix all the problems that we're facing right here in the United States of America. Get to the point where we go to a coffee shop, right? A kosher coffee shop, and we're sitting there, a group of us, reading the Bible, talking about the Bible in three different languages, the original languages of the Bible. Can you imagine that? But like that person has a high possibility to discover that he or she is an Orthodox Jewish descendant too. That person's heart's going to be broken, and that person's going to have to find out the hard way why it doesn't make sense to try to take people's life, right? There's a lot of people in prison today, I'm assuming. 'Cause like I said, in Colorado State penitentiaries, that was a big messianic explosion happening. These cats are learning biblical Hebrew. They're not learning Aramaic. They're not learning New Testament Greek. We got a lot of them different skin colors, right? Reading the Bible in biblical Hebrew, coming out of prison, or spending the rest of life in prison and finding out they're Orthodox Jews. And then they start researching more Jewish educational books, right? Then they discover, man, I just wasted my whole life. I got to spend the rest of my life in prison. That's the way it is. And that's why I'm trying to push these videos out there, man. Praying to God, man. I gotta get people's attention. I gotta get back to the community. People here in the United States, it should be mandatory. It should be a law passed that American citizens are educated in the Bible in its original languages with the church history and the Jewish history. So you can find out that the church history has been persecuting the Jews for the last 2,000 years, all because the Jews want all of us to do the right thing, right? Imagine that. 7 Noahide laws that we follow by. Imagine having a family, a community, a society you live in. Not like you go to church, right? And you only see the people if you even go back to church every Sunday. I'm talking about throughout the week, having conversations on the street corner over there, walking your dog, enjoying life. These are the small things in life, that I mentioned that. These are my luxuries, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. Hey, I like smoking cigarettes. Um, is it a sin? You have to ask the Orthodox rabbi because there are kosher cigarettes. But anyways, yeah, that's my luxury. Drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, right? Reading the Bible. Not while I'm smoking a cigarette, of course, or drinking coffee, but and intellectually evolving. So you want to talk about evolution? Yeah, that's all false. I mean, don't, here in the United States of America, being Mexican, never Mexican, then but being a Jew, and then being a person of the world, right? I don't have the right to be a free thinker. I don't have the right to to decide for myself how I want to be educated, what I'm going to do with my education without people getting mad, right? But with God, everything is possible, and this is things that turn me on nowadays. Reading the Bible in these languages, intellectually evolving and not devolving, and giving it back to people. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm from the hood, man. I'm what they call in rap songs a boss. I could use everything that I know about the Bible. I could have done it the last, 13 years. Imagine me going and creating my own cult, or imagine me going into your church saying, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. You are saved by grace. How do I know? Because I could read the Greek New Testament. I know a little bit about Jewish history and church history and world history to to validify what the r- pastors and these men and women prophets and prophetesses are telling you is the true ultimate truth, the divine truth. Imagine that. And I'll say, hey, I'll teach you the Greek too, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Joel Osteen here in Houston, Texas, wherever he's at in Dallas, Texas, with these mega churches, all these other pastors and all that stuff. I could, because like I said, I come from that environment. And this is why it makes no sense to put people in ghettos and environments to use them to make money and to destroy them and generations of destroying people, right? Because God's going to say, all right, we're going to bring the scum of the earth to come up here and judge you. So I can use this education in the wrong way. And man, oh, you have a mega church? I could set up, use your money to invest into me to make like corporate America. Who says I can't? I'll have a chain of mega churches here in the United States of America. Because you being a Christian over there, I mean, what are you gonna? I'm saying pretty much. I'm saying the same stuff that the church you're going to already, right? If you want me to change my name, I'll change to my German name, and it will be white supremacist. You want me to change to Mexican, then hey, we'll become Mexican church and make it all this stuff for criminal reasons to make tons of money, right? By misleading the public. I could do all that, but I choose not to. I choose just to give back to people that been left out, people that people see in society today, and they judge them harshly, you know? Because like I said, I could create. I mean, I'm if I want to use it in the bad way, it deceive like the church is doing to everybody, right? I could make a chain of mega churches. At least you'll learn the New Testament Greek, but the definitions you're gonna have to rely on the church scholars. Okay, you have to rely on me for the definitions of those. So I'll teach you the Greek. You can read the Greek in the New Testament Greek. You can get apps because Greek is not a dead language like we've been previously told, right? Come find out. Greece is still around, right? Not the ancient Greece, but the descendants of ancient Greece is still around, and they're speaking Greek over there, like the Jews are speaking Hebrew over there and Aramaic over there, right? And Islam, the Muslims are speaking Arabic over there and stuff. That it's so hard to learn these dead languages. The only language that exists is the United States American English, right? And you'll be reading the New Testament in Greek. But like I said, you're gonna have to rely on three people: the church scholars, right? The church spiritual leaders, to get the definitions for those Greek words, or from a person like me. But I choose not to. Actually, I'm actually enjoying being poor. All my life, I thought being impoverished was a weakness. No, it's not. It made me into a solid dude, a solid individual. You know, that's why you don't see me out there hustling people, trying to take stuff, deceiving people, doing anything wrong, right? Because I'm returning to God. And I know because other people gave up on me in my community, and I see your community is being mistreated the same way. We get killed in private. Cops kill us. People kill us all the time. I mean, look at El Paso, Texas in 2019. Mass shooter from around here, Emerald, Texas, right, went down there to kill illegal immigrants because Donald Trump was saying illegal immigrants that look like me, Mexican, right, are invading the United States of America. But you never see it. You know where? Where are the legal immigrants? What are they invading? What crimes are they making? Oh, because I told you they're selling drugs. Oh, because they're telling you they're human traffickers. Oh, okay. Oh. So you haven't on a personal individual basis, you haven't went and experienced this yourself. You're just listening to what people tell you. So where'd you learn this learned behavior? I call it learned behavior. That's from that church. You're believing what people tell you. And this tells a lot about you that you're a hateful person for hating people in the first place, right? So that makes you a hater. That's a new term from the streets, right? Back in the day, a hater was just someone hating on you trying to make money, not because of your skin color and all that. Now, you know, since we intellectually evolved from the 1980s and 1990s, right? So the real haters, right? All the haters today are racist people, people that discriminate against other human beings because they don't, it doesn't make sense. Once again, you don't follow the laws of God, you're saved by grace. So why are you trying to use the laws of God to judge people? See? But like that person in that mass shooting in El Paso, that was a hate crime. He went over there and freaking killed a lot of Mexican Americans. Where's the uproar from Mexican America here in the United States of America? Because they have us so censored. They have us censored to the point under threats of violence and mass deportation and whatever else. Me, I'm not living like that. I choose not to. No, I'm good. I'm a free person. I'm in my native ancestral land. You're not going to tell me I'm committing a crime. You're not going to tell me you're going to allow me to be a victim of crime. And if I say something about it, you're going to prosecute me and want to put me in jail with no due process. So why am I paying taxes? Why are all my people paying taxes in the United States of America? And then, and because we're dealing with psychological slaves, people watching this video right now would think that I'm talking about Mexicans only. No, I'm not. I just told you, okay? I'm native Mexican American. On top of that, I'm German. I'm Irish. I'm from Prague. I'm from Poland. Okay, I'm from Finland. I'm from Mesopotamia area. Okay, I'm from Cambodia. I'm from Africa. So I pretty much, covered the whole freaking. My ancestors traveled the globe basically. So I'm a man of the world. So I'm talking about everybody that can relate to me. That this is a real thing. That we're interconnected biologically, but majority of the population in the United States of America have been dispositioned or psychologically manipulated to judge people by their skin color. And that's what makes me the bad person. That's why I'm the bad Mexican. Now I got the title of being the bad Mexican Jew, right? For telling the truth, for giving back to these broken communities, broken individuals and families, all that stuff. So remember that Mishpatim means rules. The way I understand it and how it makes sense to me is by divine, Mishpatim is plural. Mishpat is rule. Rules Mishpatim. So for how I understand it is divine injunctions because I'm also a Jew, right? These are like the constitution God gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? To my ancestors and your ancestors. A lot of people that don't know they're Jewish people will soon discover that they are Jewish descendants, whether it's through DNA or Jewish last names. And the vision is to learn the biblical Hebrew and the Aramaic and the New Testament Greek, and to teach ourselves to return to God, to do the right thing, and not to be ashamed of doing the right thing, and not to be afraid, be terrorized to lose our life, even finan. I mean, terrorism comes in different shapes and forms, you guys. That's what I learned here in Amarillo, Texas, by these rich people, conservative Christians that did all these crimes against me. They will strike you physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, financially, everything. You will get blackballed, or you could get blackballed. I'm blackballed right now. That's why I can't get no attorneys. The Department of Justice won't investigate this, or they won't respond, right? The FBI. So what do? Just keep pushing forward and keep telling the truth and heal and get better and never give up, right? Because obviously I'm on a mission, and this mission has, like I said, I have some kind of interaction or encounter with God, because it's tangible, the proof I could provide that, yeah, I had some kind of encounter with God, and I could read the Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek now, and I'm willing to teach it to anybody who's turning from life of sin to God, right? By following the seven Noahide laws. So, Mishpatim, divine injunctions. Will you follow the seven Noahide laws? Break away from the people that tell you can't stop murdering, you can't stop raping, you can't stop talking bad about people, that you can't stop, or that you can't understand some shape or form about God and form a belief behind that, right? Or on top of that, that you can't stop hurting animals, you can't stop talking bad about people, you can't stop being sexually promiscuous, right? And that you can't set up your own community, right? To set a place of worship, your own synagogue. So the rabbis would come and teach you more in the seven Noahide laws. You, that community, the brothers, right? That God designates, who's going to be the main leader of these communities to uphold the seven Noahide laws, right? That's why I said, when people try to tell me only Jesus Christ didn't sin, no one can stop sinning. It's in our nature. All this stuff. So I come around, right? So you're gonna tell me you can't stop murdering people, raping people, hurting animals, right? See what I'm saying? That's God. Something so simple, something so logical and rational, people can't understand that that's how it is. You can. Maybe someone, because all your life people are telling you, right? These people that are rebelling against God are telling you, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't. Then you come across a person like me that just says, hey, you can stop murdering, you can stop raping, you can stop stealing and robbing people, you can appreciate whether you're rich or poor. Okay, you can do all this stuff, and that's the beginning of it all. And that's where we all will begin. And that's why it's crucial to understand that you can learn the biblical Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the New Testament Greek. You'll discover, hey, what the church is trying to say is all lies and Jesus Christ maybe did exist, but the overall general message of the New Testament is that I need to stop sinning. Whether if I look at it from the perspective of a Christian or a Jew, right? At the end of the day, the general overall message of the New Testament is that I need to quit sinning. And if I'm watching this video right now and this guy, I don't know who he is, and he's talking some weird stuff, but it kind of makes sense. And I'm questioning myself right now. I don't know what sin is. You know, that's the people that God's reaching out to. He's bringing me into your domain to psychologically tell you, hey, look, we're free people, man. It's time to get up out of here. And it's time to learn these languages, and you can stop sinning, because what that means is they're telling you can't stop murdering people. No wonder why you see people here in the United States of America murdering, right? You can't stop raping people. No wonder why you don't stop hearing about all these sex crimes. You can't stop stealing from people. No wonder why you see people stealing from each other through violence, taking life, right? Over, man, $100, $50. What the heck? Don't kill me. Try to rob me. If I have any money on you, look, I'll just don't call the cops. I won't call the cops. Don't kill me. Don't come back to rob me. Just take this money, because obviously I understand that if you're willing to take life or rob somebody through a murder weapon, because you have some type of bill to pay, whether if you need a prostitute, whether you need money to go have sex with a man or woman, instead of raping somebody, I would rather give you money for that. Just tell me, dog, I need this $20, $50. If I have it here, or you have to go get alcohol because you're having withdrawals, and if you don't drink this alcohol, you could die, and you don't want to. You're lost in life, or you're suffering from a mental health crisis or something. You need this, whatever, right? I don't know. You you're dealing with an addiction, and you got to get high. Okay, you have to get high, because if you didn't have to get high, you wouldn't be out here robbing people, right? Willing to take life from a person. So here, dog, look, man, it's all I got, dog. Just see me eye to eye. I ain't calling the cops. You don't call the cops. Just don't hurt nobody, dog. I'm trying to get stuff going so we can give back to the community to help everybody. And I want you to know it's not wrong to suffer from an addiction or mental illness or being impoverished or sexual need. We're all humans. That's what that's what the message is about, giving back to people and trying to reach through this concept the rabbis call, and it's right there in the Bible too, tuma, a spiritual deficiency. And that's what we're seeing right here in our very front eye, in front of our eyes today in the United States society. That's spiritual deficiency, where people are being told they can't stop murdering. you know really. And that's why you see it, and that's why it's there. Education, yeah, maybe you don't believe in God. Who cares if you believe in God or don't? Are you willing to, at least when you see me in public, are you ready to meet me on that same level where you don't have to worry about me? I ain't gonna rob you. I ain't gonna kill you. I ain't gonna rape you. I ain't gonna take nothing from you. I ain't gonna look at none of your stuff. You guys see me walking around society like this, because I'm trying to make it clear I ain't taking nothing from nobody. I ain't jealous. I ain't envious. I'm a poor man. You know what? It is what it is. Obviously, God got me here in this position to be poor, so I'm gonna be poor, and I'm not gonna take nothing from anybody, because I'm gonna be satisfied with what I have. I'm gonna appreciate these smaller things in life, because one day I might be rich, might win the lottery one day, right? But you know, I'm not gonna hurt your animal or my animal. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you believe in God or don't, at least can we see eye to eye that we won't murder each other, we won't rape each other, we won't steal from each other, rob from each other, talk bad about each other, hurt animals, right? You won't try to have sex with my wife and I won't try to have sex with your husband, right? Because that's what we're dealing with. Everything is just off the tracks, right? So if you're LGBTQ community, like I said, there's no need to address that community because they're holier than people at the church. Okay? Because when I was homeless back in Denver, after all this happened to me, I tried to work, and there was a black man who was from the LGBT community, right? My coworker, and he was a stripper, and then he started hitting on me. I said, "Look, bro, it's like this. Like, I need you to appreciate me for how I understand life, and I'm appreciate, or I need you to respect me for how I understand life. I'm going to respect you for how you see life and how you present yourself to life and everything." And what I discover, well, I'm a Christian, Jeff. I go to church too. I'm LGBTQ over here. I said, cool, that's fine. So I'm not one of these a-holes over here judging people, right? And I used to go to work hungry. I was homeless. I just started working. Anybody that starts from nothing, that's been like the general theme in my life. Going to work, having to wait 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes to get my first paycheck. Well, who's paying for my rent? Who's paying for my food? Right? That's how poor I am here in the United States of America. That's how it's been. And it's like I said, it's been a repetition theme in my life, starting from scratch over and over and over and over, being hungry, starving, right? No money for the bus, gotta walk miles to work. Hot, winter, cold, whatever, right? So that's the moral message too. They're more holier than Christians because there was no Christians out there like here in Amarillo. There ain't no spiritual leaders willing to hear my message. Look, how are look at how these people dehumanize me. This is your Amarillo Police Department. This is your whole Amarillo judicial system. This is your mayor you have in office. This is the government of Texas, how they're operating. They're operating as a tyranny. So if they done that to me, what makes you think they're not going to do it to you? And like I pointed out, what they did to me, a network of doctors and police officers, it's just crazy. They've done it like they've done it multiple times before. Like this is how they live out here. Since it's this way here in Amarillo, Texas, you better believe what you're seeing throughout the United States of America, whether it's Democrat or Republican state or city or whoever from whichever party is governing you, because everybody wants to stand by idle. Now it's happening everywhere to everybody, and you gotta make that decision. You know, am I going to do the right thing or am I going to do the wrong thing? Because doing the wrong thing means you're going to have the world and all of the luxury and happiness and everything that you get right from of the world for right now. You might live. I mean, looking at these corporate America billionaires, these dudes and chicks are 90, 100 years old, running around like they're 20 and stuff, right? But God already decreed that people would live no longer than 120 years old. That's why you see people 115 years old today, women 70 years old still giving birth to kids, right? Some dying during childbirth, some 70, 80-year-old woman surviving the childbirth and now has a son or daughter at the age of 75 years old, right? Because God already decreed people will live to 120 years old. It's the haters psychologically manipulating you and telling you lies about God. But if you choose to do the wrong thing, like you see these rich people, they're enjoying life right now. They've been, you know. The only thing that probably scared them, that rattled up their mind, was the COVID-19. But when they die, they're gonna have to deal with God. And then when the King Messiah comes, no matter if it's Jesus Christ or not, the thing is, the King Messiah is coming, and we'll find out if Christianity's been lying. Everything I'm telling you is a lie. You know, because I already said, yeah, the real Jesus Christ, Isu Christu over there, he's a Pharisee. He is a real Jewish person. That's real Jewish history. That's what transformed the world in the last 2,000 years. was because of that Pharisee, that rabbi, because that's one of the missions of the Jews, right, or the King Messiah, is to get the whole world to read, to believe in God. So a lot of people believe in God, right, today, but they're not properly educated to understand the things about God and who God is in order to have that accurate belief system that God does exist. But that New Testament, it done that. It transformed the whole world, not only the Western world, but the Eastern world. That's why you have days off from work. That's why you have the rules and regulations in place here in the United States of America. But because the people that want the world today and live right, private jets, rich, all that stuff, committing their crimes, let them have it. Let them enjoy that. That's their decision. But don't let them, any longer psychologically manipulate you to use you as a pawn to destroy life, because when they die, they won't participate in the resurrection of the world. Their resurrection is going to be seeing God, talking with God, going over why they did the things, every single thing you did in life, from the time you were born to, even before that, the whole 9 months, you're conceiving in your mother's womb. You're going to discuss this with God in your whole life. Every good thing and bad thing that you did, you're going to have that conversation with God. And then He's going to tell you, sorry, look, I got to put you over there. And you got to spend eternity over there. If you just listen to people that were trying to get through to you when you're alive, because that lake of fire, I built that. I created that for my fallen angels that rebelled against me. I didn't build that for humans. So those people that were telling you how is for unbelievers in me, you should have understood that and seen that as a red flag. Why would you participate in any religion? Why would you believe in any God that uses acts of threats and intimidation to cause you, right, to, what's the word? I want to say formalize, but I don't think it's formalize. Why would you believe in a religion and a God that will force you through acts and of violence and intimidation, right? To coerce you to believe in me. I wouldn't. See what I'm saying? These are conversations that people are going to have, good or bad. But the bad people that are rich, that have their Haba Alam, the world to come right now. And then they're going to talk to God. God's going to break it down to them. And then they go to Gehenna, right? And maybe, I don't know. I mean, we'll know at that time, you know, 'cause what I do know, there's degrees of righteousness and there's degrees in unrighteousness. Okay, it probably don't make sense to you, but for example, I don't know how to use the example, but there really there are degrees in committing sin, and there is degrees in doing the right thing. For example, you're a billionaire, right? And you want to do something good for people, so you donate your money to a charity, and then you get a tax refund, right? Basically, it's a tax write-off. So that's a degree of holiness right there, but it's also, a little bit of the spiritual deficiency tumor with it too, because the negative degree is that you only did it because you're going to get a tax write-off, some kind of tax refund or deductible or something, right? Or something that you're going to, be compensated for, versus a higher degree of holiness would be, what? I've been out here like a weirdo for the last month, and I've been watching these families and these communities that are in play, that are just just made up of corruption or poverty or whatever, right? So I've been watching these 20 families right here, looking like a weirdo and they're starting to catch on to me. So I got to make my move. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull them all together and just tell them all together. Look, I'm taking you guys out of this environment. I'm a billionaire. I don't want to tell you my name because I don't want you to tell other people what I did, but I want to help you and your family with you right now. Here's a check. There's more money coming. Or just get it all to them, right? Here, I'm your billionaire. Come to my bank. Here's 50 mil. Get you out of there. You get out of there. You get out of there. Don't tell nobody. Just get you and your family and friends and get up out of here. That's a high degree of holiness, right? Versus giving money to a charity organization, right? So you see, we can see that, we can grasp with our mind, right, the mental faculty and intellectual faculties, that we can see that there are degrees of holiness, just like unholiness, right? I mean, gotta be adults. You gotta face reality in the climate of the United States of America today. The mass shooters, right? I mean, a person that kills one person, that's another degree of unrighteousness, right? One person getting killed by one person versus a mass shooter wiping out a group of people, right? So you see, there is some kind of fundamental, and it's probably a universal truth that there are degrees of holiness and unholiness. So let these people live, like let everybody live how they want to live and just count. Look, these are, when you mentally grasp the seven Noahide laws and you're doing tshuva and you're working through all and everything that is wrong about you, even good too. I mean, how many times you try to be a good person and people saw it as a sign of weakness and they try to, you know, take advantage of you, and then you had to act out in some kind of form of violence, right? So you got to work on yourself with God doing tshuva and these seven Noahide laws in order to get to that point where you can feel comfortably in society and tell people, hey, look, I'm living by these laws right here and I understand what they mean, so I believe in them. I'm never going to murder anybody. I ain't going to rape anybody. I ain't going to steal, rob people. I'm not going to verbally assault you because everybody's doing all this around me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to hurt animals. I'm going to advocate for people. Do you see what I'm saying? Then you have your community where you go worship, and that's your seat of justice. That's your place where that's going to govern you and your community you come into, right? So all your neighbors will no longer be strangers. They get on the same, track. Say, you know what? We're not losing anything by following these Noahide laws, whether I believe in God or not. What I can agree to you, and I'm willing to live and die by this with you, is that we'll never murder each other. We'll never rape each other. We will never rob each other. We will never talk bad about each other. We will never steal from each other. We won't hurt any animals. And we'll come together and, at least once a week, meet together and we'll go over what we're doing in life. Do you see what I'm saying? So your neighbors aren't strangers anymore. They become your community. And that's what the United States of America needs, and that's what God is doing with all of us today. So stop attacking the synagogue. Stop shooting innocent people. If you're hurting, trust me, I've been there. I know that hollow feeling. It sucks big time. When I used to walk around homeless, I felt like I was carrying my body 220 pounds. You know how mentally and emotionally and physically exhausting that is when you're severely depressed. I was so severely depressed, and I wonder about my doctors and everything because I don't think they have mental health patients that go in there, for example, and tell them, "Look, doctor, I'm so depressed. I can feel my brain. My brain feels like it's so freaking lethargic." That's how severely depressed I was. My brain felt lethargic. My eyeballs, So, Baruch Hashem, I'm not that way anymore. I was able to grab a hold of what, I mean, I knew then. I probably didn't understand it clearly, but I was like, you know what? The miracle happened. My prayers were answered. I'm reading the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. But it was so hard to just get me to sit down to read the Bible in English, let alone the three other languages when I came out of prison, because, you know, spiritually speaking, I was, and I've been, and it feels now it feels easier now being, just living my life. But it seemed like when I came out and tried to read the Bible, I was attracted to so many other things that wanted to and did, succeed in preventing me from reading the Bible, even talking about the Bible. I mean, think about it. Come across me, right? Or who do you come in contact with on a daily basis where you're just having a holy conversation, talking about the Bible, telling person what you learn, hearing what another person tells you, and you both conclude, hey, we learned the same thing, just different aspects of it. See what I'm saying? You don't see people. So what I'm saying, the point I'm trying to say is that you don't see people out there in society, in your community. Hey, what's up, brother? What are you doing, man? Just talk. This is what I learned about this parasha this week. This is what I'm learning about the Bible. This No one engages in any conversation about the Bible. And if you try to with a stranger, they're gonna be like, this fool's weird, right? Because that's how bad things are out there. But once again, when you start talking to people, you got to get their attention, and they need some kind of tangible proof that God is real. So that's the goal here on this YouTube channel, is to teach you how to read and write the biblical Hebrew, the biblical Aramaic, and the biblical New Testament Greek, so that you can have, you know, the correct information, so you can make better decisions in life. And it's, why in our history, in our pivot of history, on the world base, on in the world, I'm talking about world history. We're at the point in world history where people have to decide, I have to go and learn these original languages so I can understand if God is real or not, and then do I want to follow these laws, right? And do I want to become a Jew even though I am a Jew? All this other stuff, in order to make the right decisions in life, to say, you know what, I just made $500 million this year. I profit 450 million this year just for myself. Yeah, I got bills to pay, so I got everything, and w- for my personal use this year, I have $350 million. Now, I worked hard last year. I see my employees down there gave up so much because that time that they're spending working for me, and that overtime that I'm spending for their overtime work, I think it needs to be increased, because I realize now, this is how you tap into the messianic consciousness and follow the seven Noahide laws. You start doing the right thing, and you're deciding you're a billionaire. You just made $350 million self profit for yourself after your bills are paid, everything, right? And now you want to get back to your employees because you realize that, what, these people working here, I I can never give back that time they spent here at work. 40 hours a week. And now we're going into the demand season, usually around, Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving. So now they're working 60 hours a week. That means throughout the year, I'm taking them away from their self, their own personal interests, their own families, their own children, their own whatever they got going on in their life. This is my business. I'm not losing my time. I'm living my dream. These people right here working for me, they're in pursuit of the American dream, right? But the American dream is a facade anyway. So anybody that really believes in, the American dream, that's dumb. That's like the dumbest thing ever. I ain't lying. But right now we're being an empath, tapping into the messianic consciousness, and just trying to, be an empath and understand how tangible and real God is. And you're a billionaire, and workers are working overtime, and now you just made $350 million just for yourself after you pay all your bills, right? And you realize a fundamental truth, a universal truth, that you can never get back the time you've taken away from a person, or the person who sacrificed, right? Who's willing to come work for you, to give up their time of their life, in and out, 40 hours a week, 365 days. That's what a lot of these employers are demanding from American workers. They want you to work all the time, no overtime. If you're not watching your hours at work today, I'm gonna tell you what these people have been telling me since I've been working. Hey Jeff, you gotta write your hours down. You know how freaking annoying that is to have to go work and then come home and then to write down the date and time where you worked at, who you're working for, how many hours you work. Because if you don't, with all this mass confusion all around you, they're chipping your hours. I just caught Pizza Hut doing that with my wife a couple weeks ago, but she's autistic. So at times I come off extremely strong because I hate when people take advantage of people. Okay, I hate that with a passion. So sometimes it's kind of hard for me to harness in and do the right thing, or I'm human too, but I'm living by these laws, so I know I can't go out there and hurt people, even though they're hurting mine. You know what I'm saying? And that ain't right. And that's where I have a problem with the church. Like, you want me to be you want to pacify me and tell me that if a person hits me, I have to turn my cheek to get cracked the second time. Say, man, go back to the suburbs. In the hood, that's illogic right there. That's irrational. You want me to be passive? Your God says that if I get hit by somebody, I have to become a victim and get hit a second time and I can't defend myself. See, that's way back when I was a kid learning all this stuff without going to church. But now being an empath, let me get back to the story. You're a billionaire, you realize your workers are giving you time, something that is undervalued. All of our time is precious, you guys. But when we didn't know that we became psychologically enslaved by people who are free. That's why they have corporate America. That concept. That's why they have billions of dollars. They created a facade for us to live in. Also known, you hear people calling it the herd mentality, right? And this employer, this business owner says, I'm gonna do something good this year because I realized that they're giving me their time. On top of that, they're giving me their exertion, right? They're exerting their physical strength, their emotional strength, their mental strength, spiritual strength too. That's all real. You know, they're giving me everything of who they are, what they are, in order for me to make money, to have my life, to fulfill my dream, and my family and friends to have a better life. And I realize it's not enough money for them. I realize this is priceless. Human life is priceless. And it's priceless when the human is willing to give their time of their life to enrich me, right? And this billionaire says, you know what? I'm going to do something unheard of. I'm going to break away from the pressures of other people. I don't care what they think. This is a universal truth. It's even fundamental. So I'm going to increase all my employees' wages to $25 an hour. You know what I'm saying? And the person does it, and then the next year, you know what happens? Because everyone's programmed to look at the negative aspects of life. Let me tell you what logically and rationally would happen. Now your workers are wanting to come to work. They're well fed, they're well nourished, they're well educated. You know what? They even have ideas for your business. You know what? You can expand this and become a corporate, or you can have a chain of whatever business that you're operating, right? You can make a whole lot of money right here, right here, right here. Because why? Because you gave these people opportunity to have a lot of money and they invested in themselves. They're educated now and they want to work with you, and now they want to become business partners with you, or they just want to say, hey, I don't want to be a business partner, but can you pay me for my idea? This is how you can make. There's a market over here that no one told you about, or you might have overlooked, or you forgot about 10 years ago. You said, hey, I need to remember this market because I'm pretty sure 5, 10 years from now, this market's going to be stronger and I can make a lot of money there while improving the life of other people. That time has come. So I just want you to pay me for that, right? So looking at the positive, the more logical and rational outcome, right? So you made $350 million, and your company, you only have 25 workers, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, that year, now 1 year alone, you spent, $100 million just right there in your employees. And the next year, because they wanted to work harder, right? And finding new ways to do more work, less effort from them, not by machines, but just being smarter. You know what? I'm gonna, instead of hurrying to this location, I'm just gonna take my time, because by the time I get there, if I'm in a hurry, I'm gonna be tired trying to. Everybody knows about double time at work, right? But if you just calmly, peacefully walk to that location, now you have all this energy stored up. So bam, whatever labor work you gotta do, you're gonna wipe it out, right? So you're finding new ways to work harder and safer, and just to make more money, because now you're in gratitude and you feel obligated to your employer. You understand that the employer didn't have to do this, and you don't know why he did it or she did it, and you don't need to know why. What you need to know why is that this person did a good thing, because everybody around you is all making the same money, $25 an hour. See what I'm saying? And then that employer quadruples what he made or she made, right? Investing it in their employees for that year, for that. So the next year, bam, 600 mil. You know what I'm saying? $1 billion. You got so many people that want to work for you. That's by that's what God is calling us to do today. That's what Mishpatim really is. These divine injunctions, how to understand them, right? Because they're all spiritual. We're dealing with spirituality here, Jewish spirituality. The concepts are there. See, I'm conceptualizing. This is what I'm talking about. The best way to understand Kabbalah with the rabbis, because it's intrinsic, and it's hard to not understand, but to wrap your mind around, because it's so spiritually enhanced. Kedusha, right? So holy. So, and then to conceptualize his concepts, they're all there, and then to be able to articulate, right? How do you draw a practical lesson from it? Because that's all the rabbis are doing. That's what God is trying to do, with all this, even with the seven Noahide laws. What's the practical lesson? The lesson. I just gave a story about a billionaire, right? Changed up the plot and looked at it from the perspective of the employees. Now the employer, right, just quadrupled their profits for the following year by simply doing the right thing, by understanding how creation works, I guess you could say, in a sense, right? Because our time is valuable, it's priceless. And when you begin to respect that and understand that, right? Obviously, you got to understand something to respect it. And with God, there ain't no, impossibilities. Everything's possible. So mishpatim, it means rules, but mishpat in the biblical Hebrew, mishpat, Mishpat, means rule, singular, right? And mishpatim, the noun, is rules, and that's how the Sephria app translated. But I put on my YouTube video, it's mishpatim means divine injunctions, because that's basically what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a judicial system, an aspect of it, and to conceptualize that and to tie it into the seven Noahide laws, because that's what's missing here in the United States of America, and that's what's missing in the rest of the world. So God bless everybody. I'm out of here. If you're watching this video, God bless you. From the hood to the suburbs, you know what I'm saying? God bless everybody. Um, get your pen and paper out and take notes. Do whatever you gotta do. I'm not I'm trying to invest in people that is going to outdo what I've learned, and that's what this whole life experience is about. It's doing the right thing and not outdoing a person, but causing another person or more people to outdo you. I guess that's the general moral practical lesson and message the rabbis in the New Testament, the Old Testament, right? All that, how they call it, the Tanakh, the Torah, Old Testament, New Testament, the Bible, right? That's the message right there, is that we're supposed to, it's not about us, it's about other people. That's why God created us. Check this aspect out. God created us because he needs us. And we think we need him, but he's the one that created us, not for us to need him. That's kind of dumb, right? It's illogic. Why would this God creator create men and women, male and females, right? And they would have a need for him. I know if I'm going to create something, right? I'm going to create something for me. Why would I create something for someone else's need, right? Especially I'm the creator here and they're not going to be able to have the ability to satisfy themselves. See what I'm saying? And that's how God created us, to serve him. He needs us. We don't need him. He needs us. And once we begin to wrap our mind around that, then we begin to understand we had it wrong. We were told the wrong things about God. That the rabbis are telling the truth. That's why the tangible proof is that we got people who's willing to teach other people the biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. So you can decide for yourself what you're going to do with it. And we hope that you do the right thing for it. That's it. That's all. Go have the time of your life doing the right thing, because you can go anywhere in the world, and that's what the world's waiting for, is for other people to get their stuff together to return to God, because the whole world, that's for the impoverished people. And that's what we're experiencing here in the United States and the rest of the world, when we're talking about inflation of prices, right? Price gouging. They're getting mad because they don't want you, these rich people, these influential people, powerful people, they don't want you to have that piece of pie they have. They have unlimited access to the world. And they don't want you to participate in that because they're stingy people for whatever reason. I don't know. That maybe they're just on that plane of reality. That's how it is. And someone has to go up there onto that plane of reality and set things straight for them and say, hey, everybody's wrong. No one's judging you. So why are you judging us? Why are you stealing from us? Even though we know you stole from us, we're trying to get back to you. We're trying to include you with us. We're trying to be rich like you by doing the right thing. Unless you're going to try to tell me all these freaking 10% people in the world that are super rich, the extremely rich, are all criminals, right? They're not. And maybe they are. But somebody has to go up there on that level and explain to them that, look, we're all suffering because of you. And if you invest in us, we're going to appreciate you more, because we don't want nothing from you. I mean, it's bad enough we got to go work for you. We just have a problem making low wages. We just don't appreciate having to come to work, risking our life at work. That's all. Shoot, wouldn't you feel better going with your employees to Disneyland and their families and your family, and everybody not being fake, everybody keeping it real? Nothing to be jealous about, right? Why you gonna respect me just because I gave you a job? You have more opportunity in life. Now I'm supposed to be something greater than you? Because if that's what you're being told, then for sure understand that they've put themselves in the place of God. They're trying to be a god to you, right? Because you're dependent on them. They're not dependent on you, right? Because you're breaking your back. Next thing you know, you break your back at work, and they kick you to the curb with no compensation, like what they did to me here in Amarillo, Texas. And now you can't work. According to God, they just commit murder. Because anybody that can't work in the world, right? and they're made not to, and they can't work, and you're the cause of it, you're the reason why they can't work ever again in life, you just committed murder. Because that person right there is going to go take someone else's life, and in the process, they're going to lose their life. But this is the tangible proof that, yeah, you start following these Noahide laws and start contemplating and meditating and listening to the rabbis over there and start, reading the Bible in its original languages. Then you become the body of the Messiah, the Guf Mashiach, right? And then it feels good to do like today. I don't feel any pressure reading the Bible, and I don't feel so anxious talking about God. But like I said, I just went through all this freaky craziness stuff, and even when I learned these languages, came out of prison, family, friends, they couldn't believe it because they're psychologically programmed to discriminate against their own kind, their own family, no matter who. And they still can't wrap their mind around the fact I'm over here reading and studying the Bible in four different languages: American English, Hebrew, Aramaic, New Testament Greek. Soon I'm gonna be working on Spanish, right? Learning more about my Pascuayaki native language, you know, Los Dios Tioque, may God be with you. So that's the tangible proof of the Ruach HaKodesh, or a resonant, you know, a remnant or drizzles, or something of divine illumination, not the Holy Spirit. That's literal what it means. Literally, we mean the Holy Spirit. Divine illumination, right? God, it is illuminating to all of us in our spiritual darkness that He is real and He exists, right? Because think about it. Are you conceptualizing God? Because when you conceptualize God, you think that this dude got blue eyes and blonde hair, right? Now you got the black Jesus. I seen the Mexican Jesus. I seen the Middle Eastern Jesus pictures. The Asian. I seen it all. I'm like, man, and what they're what I realized a long time ago, what people are expressing is a universal truth that, because they're being told that Jesus is God. So we're made in His image. So that means that God, if I'm black or brown skin or white skin or Asian, I reflect the image of God. So there's really nothing wrong with them, with the different, everyone that has different colors of Jesus. By all means, nobody knows what Jesus Christ means. The Da Vinci picture that you see over there in ancient Rome, Italy, Jesus Christ. You got to know the history behind that picture. That person that you see, Leonardo da Vinci, that was a prostitute that he hired in order to draw and paint that beautiful picture of Jesus Christ, right? But the truth is, nobody knows what Jesus Christ looked like. You know, Paul is from Turkey, so how people in Turkey, Syria looks, that's how Paul's going to look. When you're attacking the rabbis, that's what Jesus Christ looks like. He's a Pharisee. But I gotta go. My neck is starting to hurt. That's the end of this parasha reading. I'm helping also to educate myself, reading the Hebrew, and just I'm having a lot of visions and a lot of thing. I don't know. I mean, what I do know is that on an educational level, in these broken hoods that we come from, what's missing is that they're not telling us there is a higher standard to live by, and that's the seven Noahide laws. And then you discover you're a Jew, then that means you got the high calling, right? To end up, and you have to go and uphold the Torah. There's 613 mitzvot, holy commandments for the Jewish people to teach the nations, and that's what's missing is education. And people can. You just got to invest in yourself. Get a pencil, get some paper, and here and pray for me too. I'm dealing with a lot of physical injuries and stuff, so it's hard for me to type and write. But I'm willing to go here on YouTube and show, how to write the alphabet, the alphabet of the biblical Hebrew letters, so that with the pictographic too. And if you don't know what pictograph is, look that up on Google. Search. That's how biblical Hebrew language also works. And I can only read it with the vowel system, and I'm practicing and learning how to read the biblical Hebrew without the vowel system, because the Masoretic text about 1,000 years ago wrote the Torah down and came up with the vowel system in order for the future generations would know how to read the biblical Hebrew with the vowels, how to enunciate each word. And I'm going to do this for free, in order that people can become free people, become free thinkers, and be able to decide for themselves, and you don't have to go and tell a person you don't belong here, or because you want to express yourself against our religious beliefs. I feel uncomfortable how you're presenting yourself to the world, so stop it, and then trying to intimidate you, going to hell and all this stuff. It ain't about that. You live your life how you want to. I'm gonna live my life over here according to these seven Noahide laws, and I'm gonna preach, to people around me. And if you agree to abide, right, then you can be in my circle. Uh, Imagine that. That's power. We'll never murder each other, never rape each other, never steal, rob from each other. We'll never hurt any animals. We'll never lie to each other. We won't talk bad about each other. All that stuff, right? We'll have a place where we'll go and meet up once a week, hopefully 5 times a week, every day of the week. And we'll just talk about life, decompress, and give little discourses, right, on what you learned from this, the seven Noahide laws. And if you're following the parasha and everything, that system, the rabbis ordained, like I said, I think it was Prophet Ezra, because he's the one with um, the great men assembly in Babylonia when they created the synagogues. And I think they're the ones in Ezra, the prophet, also responsible for creating the parasha, right? The portions that Jewish people read each week in the Bible of the Torah, with the Nevim, the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the Ketuv, the writing. I mean, there's so much to learn, and we all know, statistically wise, people with higher education are able to do more things in the world, right? To be able to give back to anybody and everybody, right? And that's what this YouTube channel is about: reconnecting to God in order to improve the quality of life for all of us. So God bless everybody. I am out of here.